With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
4 different winners in 4 different races so far in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series, and as we travel to the far east of the map, could we potentially go 5 for 5 as we take on the Trembles and the Terrors of Suzuka? Those were 2 T words that I thought up right there and then, but we've got a couple of people here with me in the booth ready to bring you some action tonight. My name is Joey Tebben, alongside me is Dylan Coyle, and behind the scenes is our very own DB. It's not David Byrne, it's Mr. Dane Baird. But Dylan, we've had a very, very exciting season so far. Absolute calamity at the Charlotte Roval last week, but we come to Suzuka this week, see who will become potentially the first 2-time winner of the season, or maybe a 5th winner to keep things going.
Hey man, you're not kidding at all. It was calamity at the Roval at Charlotte Motor Speedway last week in both the fixed and sprint series. It looked like they couldn't even get the race underway without wrecking it on the front straight. But it's Suzuka. This marks the halfway point of this 9-race series. Of course, Mugello comes next week with Road Atlanta, Okayama, and Mount Panorama Bathurst to serve the back half of this fixed and sprint series season.
And so far, as things have gone in those first 4 rounds, as I mentioned, 4 different winners, but a lot more separation than you might think with the evenness at the top of the table so far. Isaiah Osborne has only won 1 race so far, but his finishes outside of that, 2 of the other finishes have been in the top 5. Only 1 race has been a finish outside of the top 5, and I think that was still a top 10 for him. So understandably, he's got the lead of the championship. Shreyas Venkataraju, 3 top 5s for him as well, puts him within touching distance of the championship lead. And then championship defender from last season, Jeff Carollo, also trying to get off from a bad start to the season. He's been looking forward ever since he won in round 2. Thurman and Hamilton round out the top 5. Jim Feliz won a race earlier this season. Graf, Steffi, Walden, and Trickett, they're all looking for their first wins in GT3 competition in the PRL. In the team standings, though, things are very, very close, Dylan, because championship leader is Raya Osborne. He's a solo driver this season, so you look at Vulture Motorsports, 2nd and 3rd in the driver standings, 1st in the team standings. They're all fighting to get every point that championship leader can't get.
Yeah, it's pretty close here. 11 points after 4 races. It's nothing to look at in a weird way. It's great, right? It's lovely SRT blue trying to hang in there. Other than that, though, you go to the green side of SRT, and it seems like there's a big separation between the podium teams and the non-top 3 in the team standings, which is okay, because as long as we have a battle for first, I don't really care about the points difference between any of the other teams in the equation.
Exactly. That is going to be a lot of math over the course of the season. We're going to start talking about the Teams Championship a little bit more in the coming weeks as things get a little bit clearer. Qualifying currently on track right now, but before we can take you into the action, we've got to thank all the people who make all of this possible here on RaceSpotTV. And first and foremost, that starts with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision5 coupon code. This coverage is also brought to you by The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. More Adness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver and now two-time Rolex 24 winner Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moreadness.com. We're very happy we get to say that now. We're also brought to you by Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And last but not least, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Thanks to all of those sponsors making every last pixel of this product on your screen right now possible. And we are ready to go qualifying here. About 7.5 minutes left in qualifying, and we shouldn't really be surprised to see that currently at the top of the timesheets, its championship leader is Raya Osborne once more.
Yeah, I think Osborne, is going to be that driver that throughout the rest of the season is going to be the runaway favorite here. But it's a question of if anyone else. Of course, we've seen some drivers who are close, but not necessarily within striking distance outside of the top two, serve as a threat. But if you have a 3/10 advantage through the early parts of qualifying at Suzuka, obviously that does not bode well for the rest of the field, with the gap only likely to grow for Osborne. But yeah, one more woo for the Daniel Morad GT3 24 hours victory. That was awesome.
Yeah, he's been a very busy boy recently. He's been showing up in the PRL chat when he can on Monday nights, or at least he was last season when he was rooting on his team in that category. And I have a feeling we'll be seeing a lot more of him in the near future around the PRL. As Osborne's at P1 right now, Ross Sortino in P2 is also a pretty interesting story, because last season he won multiple races. Both of them were in totally dominant fashion in that Ferrari. But this season he's been a little bit on the back foot, hasn't quite had that race-winning pace. But right now, up into P2, only 3/10 off pole. Could this potentially be the return of Sortino?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sortino is one of those drivers that you always expect to be up there at the end of the day fighting. It just it hasn't been the season that we would have expected for Ross, but nonetheless, he's always a threat. Every single week, he is a threat on track, and with him far back in the championship standings after some poor performances through the second, third, and fourth rounds. I mean, it started off so brilliantly, right, with a top 5 drive in round 1 of the season, but unfortunately, things don't always work out the way that you want them to, and with a 9-race schedule, it's those races that even one can be detrimental to a championship hopeful season.
And here is Ross coming through the S's, trying to improve. 5 minutes to go in qualifying, as this is an open qualifying session. If you cross the line with even a second to go, you still do get to finish that lap. So lots of time left on the board, potentially up to 3 laps for all these drivers. They're all going to get chances to improve. A little bit of a wiggle out there. That's Andrew Trickett in the background of your screen. Probably not going to improve on this lap for him. But as we watch Sortino through the hairpin, he's just trying to pick up some time in the Cardo Mania number 20 with those Canadian flags on the rear wing. I'm a big fan of those as well.
Yeah, oh Canada. You know, it's always a lovely thing to hear Canada play at some of the.
And it makes him so easy to pick out of the track, Dylan. When there's a bunch of black and white cars, you see the Canadian rear wing, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's Ross Sortino. That's easy.
Yeah, that's an easy one to pick up. You know, just a good little paint scheme addition here is. Can we talk about that sun and this run down into 130R?
I thought Japan was supposed to be the land of the rising sun, but it's the land of the setting sun today.
Yeah, but the sun is still rising into the eyes of these drivers as they go through potentially the most dangerous corner on this circuit. That's going to be exciting and a challenge that we honestly don't talk too much about with any races at Suzuka, which is why it might serve as a bit of a challenge once the race gets underway. If drivers are going side by side, heading into 130R, they might not know exactly what the best move is, and with limited visibility, that only adds to the excitement or danger, whatever you want to call it.
I think those two go hand in hand. A little bit of excitement, a little bit of danger. That's always some good stuff. Sully Saad up to P4. Good lap from him, but still half a second off that huge lap from Isaiah Osborne. If you want to know how good that lap was, he is one of only 2 drivers to be down into the 159. Sortino is also just barely there with a 159.9. Every other driver in the field, all the way down to 42nd place David Morse, has not been able to bring it down under the 2-minute mark. Let's see if Jim Feliz can do it this time. He only needs a couple of thousandths to get underneath that mark out of the final corner. The Firestone Firehawk himself, Jim Feliz, apparently is going to bring it across the line, and we'll see if there's any improvement from him. Can he join Isaiah Osborne in the front row? Doesn't look like there's going to be any improvement this time, but he's going to set up for another one. He's got 2 more left on the clock.
Yeah, that is wonderful there for the Firestone Hawk. You know, it is interesting that 2 drivers on the same team are riding so close together, especially at, Suzuka. It's not necessarily the best move, I'd say, with a track that requires a lot of aerodynamic grip. I think dirty air might be a problem for these two, and I just don't think the run through the front stretch and through that back stretch run into 130R is necessarily long enough to really get the advantage when it seems like there's a bit of a disadvantage here. What do you think?
I don't know, but if you want to get even more confused, Dylan, we've got 2 drivers in the series. We've got Jim Feliz and we've got Felix Feliz. They aren't teammates, and also they're totally unrelated. We've just got 2 totally unrelated Felizes. We learned that earlier this season.
Well, that is okay. We've got 2 completely unrelated Philadelphians in this broadcast booth.
But if my name was Joey Coyle, that'd be pretty unlikely.
Hey, if my name was Dylan Tebben, then that would be
Speaking of people named Joey, look at Joseph Carnes up into P3. Big lap from him. Driver who's been around the sprint series at the top of the hour, or the top of the times here normally in this series. He's moved down to the fixed series this season, and that's a big lap from the Precision Racing Academy driver.
Yeah, that's huge, and I think he's going to park it there. He's happy with that 837 spot on the leaderboard as we rejoin with Osborne, still up 3/10 with just over a minute left in this qualifying session. Again, I just don't see that mark just being left up for the taking here.
I do wonder, with the sun setting, track temps potentially getting a little bit cooler, is there still time left out on the track? If there is, Osborne's probably going to find it as well, and maybe even extend his pole position. We'll see if he's able to do that coming into Spoon Curve for what will likely be, I think, his penultimate lap. I think he will make it to the line for one more time. So we'll see what he can make it happen here. Out of the second part of the Spoon Curve, down onto the long back straight, driving directly into the sun. Hopefully he doesn't get blinded, because 130R is coming up.
He's on a flyer right now. Last lap out in qualifying, up 4/10 on it. Was in purple at one point. We'll see if that mark is kept once he crosses the line for the final time. I mean, he might have enough time to go for another lap.
Yeah, it's going to be a race against the clock here. Is he going to make it around for one more lap? Is he going to take the checkered flag? I think he might take the checkered flag here, but it might be a little bit of an IMSA situation. We'll see if it ends early. Isaiah Osborne coming to the line. Checkered flag is out before he can reach the line. It's going to be his final lap. Let's see if he can improve it all on a 1:59.5. He's already on pole. He doesn't need to improve, and he doesn't for good measure. 1:59.5 going to stay his top time, but now we wait and see everybody taking their final laps, their final runs across the checkered flag. Andre Bonatti up into P5, and here's Feliz and Jared Keane coming through the Spoon Curve for their final laps.
Yeah, that last lap for Osborne, he lost around 5/10, half a second through the final couple corners here at Suzuka. So that was a great lap that kind of went to the wayside because of how it ended. But here's this long run. How much will the draft help both of these teammates?
Probably not at all, unfortunately. Jared Keane, right as you says that, parked it, knew he wasn't going to improve. His day is going to be done in qualifying at the very least. Rob Campbell up to P3. Great lap from him in the lunatic car. But let's see what Jim Feliz can do in the number 5. Very successful number in the PRL with Abner Acosta and some of the other series. And Jim's won a race of his own this season. 2 poles. Let's see if he can make a number 3 as he brings it to the line for the final time. Where's Jim Feliz going to be? Is it going to be the number 5 in P5? Not seeing any improvement, but we wait for the times to update, and it doesn't look like Jim's going to be starting any higher. It'll be the number 5 starting in P5.
I'll be honest, the only time I saw improve ever since the checkered flag waved was Andre Benatti. And of course, we had, I think it was Rob Campbell moving to P3. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the lowering of the sun, I don't think contributed too much.
Shreyas Venkataraju coming to the line. Is he going to be able to do anything? Doesn't look like it. He was tracking about 8/10 slower. So the checkered flag flies, the sun miraculously resets higher in the sky, and we get ready to go racing for 35 minutes of GT3 fixed action here at the Suzuka circuit. 42 cars on the grid, potentially 43. I do see Andrew Rasmussen down at the bottom of the sheets. Didn't get a lap in qualifying, but we may see him on the grid. There's no surprises otherwise, though, because his Raya Osborne, he's finally parked it. He's finally brought it back to the pits. And he's going to start from pole with a 3/10 gap, Dylan. That's going to put the fear into the eyes of the rest of the field.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying it from the beginning of qualifying here. Osborne looks to be on a tear. And if that's the lap times that he's been seeing in this one, oh goodness, the rest of the field is going to be shaking in their boots at that.
Still got to wait for the clock to tick down, I think, to see the grid. So we get the beautiful sights of Suzuka. And this is one of the most difficult corners on the track, Dylan. Spoon curve, so famous. There's too many apexes to count, and somehow you've got to hit all of them to hit a perfect lap like Raya Osborne did. It is so difficult, and we're gonna get through the entire lap over the course of the day. There's gonna be trouble everywhere. This series had a lot of chaos at the Roval last week, but I think it'll be a little bit less chaotic today, we can only hope. But the session has now ticked over. Drivers get ready to grid, and we can take you through the grid ourselves. No surprise whatsoever to see Raya Osborne on top. He has been so fast this season. He hasn't won a second race, though, so he's going for win number 2 today. And Ross Sortino looking for win number 1 of the season to his outside in his Ferrari. Rob Campbell, big lap from him, many times a winner in GT4 competition in the PRL, looking to return to victory lane in GT3. He starts alongside Joe Carnes, his best qualifying in his entire PRL career, I think we can say. Jim Feliz starts P5 alongside Andre Benatti. And then the hits keep on coming because row number 4, P7 went to Sully Saad, P8 went to Colin McKenzie, Jared Keane and Felix Feliz round out the top 10 at a Tyler Graff and defending champion Jeff Carollo, much slower than we're used to seeing him in qualifying. Unlucky 13th went to Jason Finch. He starts alongside his teammate Brett Thurman. Then Shreyas Venkataraju, second in the championship, much slower than he would have liked as well, alongside Evan Mackay, Dale Peterson, and Jay Steffi, looking to move their way forward from row number 9. Rounding out the top 20 in 19th, it's Andrew Ellis, and last week's winner, William Fenson, down in P20. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to go 2 for 2. Then Muller, Davis, Hamilton, and Maillard round out the top 24, but the hits are gonna keep on coming here. It is a big field. Wright, Trickett, Deploy, Walden, Berquist, and Rhines down to the end of the top 30. Brett Accord, Barry Cochran, Ryan Luna, Nick Johnson, Devin Brock, and Drew DeWeese down to the end of the top 36. And the final drivers that'll start this race, Travis Pruitt, Ian Cabana, Neil Alexander, David Morse, and one other driver who I didn't see before we flipped over, Christopher Perez. Want to make sure he gets a shout out. And Andrew Rasmussen, no lap in qualifying for him, but I believe he will be starting this race. I see him at the back of the grid. He'll be starting 43rd. But that's a lot of cars, Dylan. They're going to be firing into the next extremely difficult turn 1 in a matter of moments. How are we feeling before we go racing tonight for the first time?
I'm not going to change what I thought was going to happen at the Roval. I think there's going to be some calamity, and a lot of it is going to come from the exit of turn 1. People are going to be pushed wide. It's going to be an exciting start here at Suzuka, Joey.
Coming through the Casio triangle for the first time before we take the green, and Raya Osborne now takes control of the field on pole, looking for his second win of the season, and he takes the green flag at Suzuka. We are racing in the GT3 Fixed Series, and it's a solid start from Osborne. Stratifies the field 1, 2, 3 with Sortino and Campbell behind, but into turn 1, somebody's going to want to pounce, and it looks like Sully Saad's the first driver side by side.
Lots of drivers trying to make moves, but yeah,
hit into turn 1. Not sure who that is, but there is a full field blockage coming through turn 2. I see Dale Peterson turned around, Drew DeWeese potentially involved, and they're still piling in. Huge carnage into turn 1 for the second week in a row.
Lots of drivers who were up front have to go all the way in the back. That's unfortunate, but we do have a bit of a race for the lead.
Indeed we do. Top 4 got themselves single file into turn 1. They avoided all the drama, but Shreyas Venkataraju wasn't quite so lucky. Travis Pruitt was involved, Sean Mulholland was involved, Evan Mackay, Andrew Ellis, and a whole host of others. We'll break out the carousel of replay entertainment when we can, but look at this. Up front, very, very conservative, very, very smart from everybody. Single file through the hairpin, but look at Sortino taking a peek to the inside.
Yeah, he was looking, but he's going to have to really build up a big head of steam coming through 200R. We call it 200R because of the radius of the corner. It's sweeping, and you're turning right the entire time before this difficult spoon curve comes up, and then a big run down the backstretch.
Don't forget about cold tires, and always remember those track limits. It's a bad exit from Ross Sortino, actually, in the Ferrari from second. Rob Campbell in the Porsche. Is he going to be able to pounce down the back straight? Is the straight line speed any good in that lunatic Porsche? Looks like it's not going to be good enough to take a peek into 130R for the first time, but as they clip the grass on entry, everybody's pushing 100% here. They know track position is going to matter early.
Yeah, it's going to matter big time. Remember, there's no cautions in Road Racing Series in iRacing, except for very few exceptions when it's manually enabled. So you have to make the moves when you can make them, usually at the very beginning of the race.
But lap 1, as quick as that, already in the books. It flew by after trouble in turn 1. Since then, it has been straightforward stuff, and these top 3 pulling away immensely from P4. You see Joe Carnes not even in the same shot. He's lost 1.5 seconds to P3, but back at the end of the top 10, these were some of the drivers who survived that early trouble, made it through the melee at turn 2. Jeff Carollo in P12 leading the train, but here's what happened in turn 1 on the right side of your screen.
Yeah, we see that all these drivers, I mean, it's impossible to have over 40 cars head into turn 1 here. You see that 3 wide. I don't think car in black knew that there was anyone on the inside, and everyone just starts piling up, trying to move away to the outside. One car goes to the inside, avoids everything. That's a horrible rejoin. That's going to be a penalty, and absolutely, I'd be mad if I were the driver. Absolutely punted right there.
Yeah, those Shreyas Venkataraju in the pink and black Porsche, currently P2 in the championship. That's going to be a big hit for him, though. You do get 1 drop week in the PRL, in the Road Series, and now on the Oval Series as well. So if you have a bad week, you can drop it. But Shreyas already didn't have the best week in week 1, so that's going to hurt his championship chances quite a bit. We look a little bit further back. Jay Steffi's had a solid start. He's moved forward, and hopefully his internet doesn't cut him out. He's directly ahead of last week's winner, William Fenson, who's also been moving forward just by staying smart and avoiding all the trouble on lap 1.
Sometimes you can gain the most spots by being consistent. You don't have to be the fastest. Oh no, Saad went off, tried to get back on, but this is a very dangerous corner to try to get back on the outside because everyone is utilizing the full extent of the track right there. Lucky he didn't get hit.
And we saw him falling down the ticker. We saw smoke on the screen, and it was only a matter of moments until we saw that those two things were combined. Sully down to the outside of the top 16, not where he wants to be. This is a guy who's been in conversations for wins in this series for season upon season. It's not going his way this season so far, though, and now he's got a comeback race for the next 30 minutes. And Joe Carnes is in trouble as well. He's down pit lane.
Oh, what happened to Carnes? Had such a great qualifying effort for him, and obviously something's amiss on that machine.
Could that be a start violation, potentially? Could he have gotten a penalty in the initial start, and he's serving that now? Because I don't think he could have reached the incident limit by now.
No,
you get 13 incident points in the PRL before you have to serve a drive-through, and he's stopped in the box right now.
100%, and of course, you'd have to stop if you got a penalty of some sort, but, I mean, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but there were over 40 cars on the start, so we'll have to try and check back in, see if there was something there, but that was surprising to see him duck down into pit lane.
We'll see if we can diagnose what happened there, because that is so unfortunate. His best qualifying result in the PRL was looking like it was going to be his best race ever in the PRL, and it's all come undone very, very early. He's still in the pit box right now, so we'll wait and see what happened to him. Into turn 1. This is actually what happened to him with Andre Bonatti behind. Are we going to see anything happen here that forced him to come down? I think that's a technical issue that forced him to pit potentially.
I mean, could this be a technical issue on, you know, his physical rig, his sim rig?
That's what it looks like, because he pulled over to let the whole top 10 by. He's still waiting for everybody else to get by.
Still steering, too. I wonder if it's a throttle problem. Brake throttle pressure? I have no idea, but that's a surprisingly upsetting way for his race to practically end.
We'll see if we can diagnose any of that. Here's what happened to Sully Sod through the second part of Spoon Curve. An absolute Porsche moment there, Dylan. Unfortunately, the pendulum of that Porsche once again bites, and Sully Sod's its latest victim.
Yeah, that's a dangerous rejoin. Lucky no one got hit by him or he was hit by anybody else. Otherwise, that would have definitely been probably a penalty on his behalf right there. But yeah, those Porsches, the center of gravity is very different, right? A lot of it is aimed towards the front, so it drives in differently. It you know, picks up speed through the corner differently as we go down this front stretch. A lot of slipstream.
We got a Ferrari festival into turn 1, peeking to the inside, I believe was Luke Davis. Nothing changed there, but that was a very, very aggressive Ferrari saying, I'm sick of waiting in line here. I'm going to go for the move. It's actually Buck Hamilton and Alex Wright. They're still side by side coming into the S's. That's now been resolved, and Alex Wright wins out.
Yeah, that was a good little battle right there between two cars with a lot of speed down the front stretch. And this is a very condensed field at the mid portion here. We're looking at the battle for 16th, but everybody pretty much from 4th on back, they're in their own big battles right now as Osborne continues to lead by over a second.
Rob Campbell still P3, basically, or not basically, exactly where he started. So no gains, no losses, just staying in line here.
That's solid.
Is a guy. Yeah, it's a good day so far. But this is a guy who's won so many times in the PRL. We look back to the GT4 series many seasons ago. He was many years younger, and he was still totally dominant in that machinery. He's been focusing on GT3 and a little bit of Formula 3 machinery as well since then. Hasn't returned to his winning ways, but he's been as fast as ever this season. And with 4 rounds to go after this, it could be a potential return to glory for Rob Campbell.
It could, but that means he's going to have to not only get past Osborne, but also Sortino, who is having himself one great race so far. I know we're only 8 minutes into it, but there's still a lot of time for Calamity to strike these drivers. Still a lot of time for, I know the tire model is a little bit forgiving. It's not going to be as much wear and tear on these, but it still could play in effect after 30 plus minutes of racing here at Suzuka. We're probably only going to go around 17 to 18 laps, so keep that in mind. Passing opportunities are limited at this track as is, so with only 18, 17 times around, that's going to limit it a little bit more.
Porsche versus Ferrari into turn 1. Sully Sod pulls to the inside of Alex Wright. Can he get the business done? Absolutely not. Gets the nose chopped off. He's going to have to wait even longer. But I mentioned those Canadian flag end plates on Ross Sortino's car. We'll talk about them on Sully Sod in a little bit because the Audis have been having trouble into Spoon Curve. It's not just Porsches that loop it around. We got some Audi trouble as well.
I always love looking at the standings and seeing how few Audis are in this field. From second all the way down to 12th or 11th, I should say. There's no Audis, but first place, Osborne, in this race, in the championship, is the R8 Evo. So it is pretty exciting to see. Look at that right there. You see the manufacturers, and it's a Porsche bunch of drivers. I can't even speak right now. That's how much Porsche is in this race.
It's too much Porsche to handle, and it may have been too much Porsche to handle for Jeff Carollo as he's fallen down the timesheets. Was fighting for P10 with Jason Finch, now behind Jay Steffi. Not sure what happened to Jeff, but he has not been having the best Jeff Carollo day today. He's now down to the end of the top dozen, and he's now got William Fenson directly behind him.
Yeah, Fenton, he's been really solid in this race so far. Obviously, won last week, so he is fast. And he's dangerous, right? As the race goes on, he's going to continue to be consistent and pick up places. So this run down the backstretch in the 130R, it could set up a move to the front stretch, maybe turn one after this lap.
This is still Sully Sod and Alex right on your screen right now, waiting to see if Sully can pull anything off. Can he land this plane on the Hudson of Alex Wright? He's not going to be able to, but a hellacious impact behind. I believe that was Andrew Trickett in the Ferrari, and that is going to be total destruction for him. Race-ending contact on the exit of 130R.
Oh, that was absolutely brutal, and you have to imagine there was some contact there to put him into that outside wall, but man, you could see it from the background of that last shot. It was a hard hit.
Here's the Jay Steffi train I was mentioning earlier. He is having a solid day today. Another one of those drivers who's been racing in the Sprint Series for a little while, but here's what happened at Trick. It doesn't look like there was any contact, but he hit the rut in the curb, and then he hit a wall as hard as you can possibly hit it.
I mean, that is completely losing control of your car. I mean, yes, that was definitely a little bit too much curb, but I'm surprised the car snapped around to the left as much as it did.
I think there's a little rut there. You kind of run the tire on the edge of the curb, and then when one part of the car is on the actual asphalt, when one part of the car is on the rut, those two other tires get lifted up a little bit as you try and hop off the Tony Hawk ollie, and then it all gets undone.
I like that. We
need a physicist in the booth, Dylan. I think that's what we need, because every time we have one of these crashes, we can talk about it as drivers, but we don't understand the physics. We got to go to Stanford to get somebody here.
We can talk about, traction coefficient or anything like that, but at the end of the day, when one side of the tires, one side of the car is dipping into is touching part of the track that is not as, there's not as much grip there. So curbs or the rut or grass, and the other part is touching the track. Well, the part that's touching the track when you apply the brakes is going to be the part that kind of gets all that brake power, so it swings around to the direction or to the side that your tires are dipping in, which creates an unbalance in the car, sends it going a way that you don't want it to go.
I think that was a valid physics explanation. Speaking of physics, the number 69, I think he just did exactly the same thing that Andrew Trickett did coming out of 130R. You can see the double helix of the tires going through the gravel. That tells me that was a pretty wild ride for Mr. Brett Thurman.
Yeah, that does not look like a clean race car. It looks like the front hood has been absolutely walloped off of it. Let's see the replay here.
Well, this is Jim Feliz first and foremost, actually. Oh my goodness, into the Degner on Peter Mahler. That was a cruise missile. Just total attack.
You don't go side by side there.
Yeah, that was a little bit of bowling there, and then a little bit more trouble. Another Porsche getting very, very all sorts of loose. That's Ryan Luna going around in the Lightning McQueen-esque Porsche, and now here's Brett Thurman coming out of 130R.
He just lost it. I don't even think he hit the curb right there. Did he just lose that one?
I think he did. Just a little bit too much speed and carrying that Porsche directly into the wall. I did like your physics explanation, by the way, Dylan. I think you would make if I were to call up University of Pittsburgh physics professor David Nero, I think he would approve of that.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm more of a Philadelphia-based person, so I'd say
I had to take physics twice, and I only got a C the second time. So anything you do is probably better than me.
I did not take physics through college or high school. The extent of my science was chemistry, and that was my by far worst class I've ever had. We're talking like a 68% when things were all said and done. I've never had anywhere close to that in my life, but nonetheless, I'm talking physics with you.
Yeah, if anybody in the chat, anybody in the PRL community, if you're like a legitimate scientist, come into the booth, because we need scientific help every single week. We don't know our physics or our chemistry, and don't even get us started on our math. That's always tough stuff for us. A little bit of easy math, though. Jeff Carollo continues to go -1 as these guys are keeping their pattern. 1, 2, 3, Osborne, Sortino, Campbell. Mr. Jeff Carollo has been having the exact opposite problem. He's only been losing position since the start, and Tyler Graff now is going to kick off the pit cycle. That's very early, not even to halfway in the race, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. Here's what happened to Jeff Carollo into Spoon Curve yet again, proving exceptionally difficult, even for a defending champion like Jeff Carollo. it's still going to bite you if you're not ready. But Jeff does get going again behind the very, very heavily damaged number 27 of Neil Alexander. Good on him for at least getting that thing back out on track after getting involved in lap 1's little bit of trouble. But Tyler Graff was in. Peter Mahler follows him in, but Peter's got a little bit of damage from that Jim Feliz incident. I think he's going to have to get that repaired. We'll still be waiting a couple more minutes to open the pit cycle for these leaders. And if you are one of these top 3, Dylan, if you are Rob Campbell or Sortino, if you're struggling to keep the pace with Osborne on track, you're probably starting to think about strategy right now and trying to jump him in the pits.
Yeah, and there's not much you can do when it comes to the strategy game, right? It's a 1 lap, 2 lap undercut. Sometimes some drivers will run it all the way dry, but I don't know if that makes the most sense. You don't need that much fuel in the car, right? So maybe if you run it dry and then go back in for a couple laps extra fuel, because it's not going to be a tire stop at all. They're not going to swap tires. It's just about getting in or out of traffic and when you come into pit lane. So it's an interesting decision, not one that's going to have much of an impact unless you make a mistake or are really good on pit lane entry and exit. That's pretty much the biggest thing that's going to be a time waster or safer.
See, are there any takers this time? The answer is no. All the way down to the end of the top 5, top 6. It's going to be a little while longer until we see the majority of the field start to kick off that pit cycle. But this looks very similar to when Isaiah Osborne won his first race a couple of weeks ago. Started on pole and just totally ran away from the field. It was round 2, or it was round 3 actually. Last week at Hockenheim 2 weeks ago. Started on pole, was actually pretty close with William Fenton in qualifying, but then once the race came around, pulled 3 seconds on the rest of the field. And it's starting to look a little bit like that, so
is it?
Everybody behind has got to start thinking about bringing that gap down, making sure he doesn't run away.
I'm going to disagree with you right there. I'm actually surprised that Osborne has not been able to run away as much as he has been. If anything, yes, the gap has increased a few tenths over the last lap and a half. I think that Sortino is now holding up Rob Campbell. Sortino is slowing down big time. So it's up to Campbell to try to make a move happen.
Should we do a little bit of team orders here? They're not even teammates, but maybe they maybe they talk to each other and say, "Hey, you know what? If we want to catch Isaiah, maybe we could switch around." It
might be a good move right there, but at the end of the day, is it really going to help the car in front, who is slower than the car in behind, with no incentive to let them through? It's just going to hurt their race, right? Teammates, yeah, but they're not going to get carried by the faster car in behind.
That was a good exit from Rob Campbell in the draft on Sortino. Is he going to be able to go for this move? I don't think he's going to think about it into 130R. That's probably a very low percentage move. But coming into the Casio triangle, he probably would have thought about it, but he wasn't able to stay close enough. About half a second now separates the two, and Campbell is going to be eternally frustrated because yet again, he got tantalizingly close, but just couldn't make the move for second.
You know, it's surprising, but Sortino is really able to handle these slower corners well. There's not too many here at Suzuka, but on, of course, Casio Triangle, the last curve, he's able to really make that car kind of stick and accelerate pretty easily out of the slower corners. Campbell, though, he's really successful around these long sweeping curves, but it's just hard to make a move because once those curves kind of come to its termination point, you can't get through that much as Davis goes into the pits.
And Luke Davis, only the second driver to pit so far. It has been a very, very not wide pit window so far. Normally we see, a little bit of differentiation in strategy, but only 2 drivers electing to come down early so far. Campbell's a very good racing name, by the way. We've mentioned this a couple times. There's multiple winners in PRL history named Campbell, but not just in the PRL. You've got Sean Campbell, who has won his fair share of races in the PRL, but he's now at the highest level of sim racing and in the Lionheart League as well, winning who knows how many races. You've got Zach Campbell from Coanda. There's something in a name. If you're named Campbell, you've got to be pretty fast on iRacing.
How about Campbell's Soup?
I mean, that's good stuff, too.
Good stuff. What's happening with Evan McKay right here? Oh, my goodness. 130R is a problem area for a lot of these drivers. This is the second straight 130R incident with a driver that didn't even go on the curb, right? Like, it just completely lost it, overcooked it. The car was unbalanced and just you try to get back on the throttle, and sometimes it's smart to just take your foot off. Look at this. Osborne is starting to stretch his legs right now. This is a big problem area for Sortino and Campbell. This is where Osborne's starting to make his money.
It's getting slippery through 130R, though. I think I saw a little bit of a micro correction there out of Osborne, just trying to be fully committed through there. We've seen our fair share of spins through there. I don't know if somebody spilled some Japanese sushi vinegar over there, but it looks slippery.
What does that taste like?
Vinegar, I guess. It's like rice. It's like seasoned rice vinegar, but it's slippery. That's the only relevant thing
Understood.
I can think of.
Okay.
Dylan is currently eating right now, by the way, so I'm just trying to bring in the food to the conversation. I'm feeling a little bit hungry on this side of the booth.
I mean, that is fair. We're talking about Campbell's soup, right? Rob Campbell. I like that. I like that very much. We're talking about Campbell and soup and food. And Joey Tebbin, I hope you're hungry.
I am hungry. I did eat dinner right before we came on the air here, so I can't really complain that much. I went to Auntie Anne's in the mall for the first time in a while.
I'm jealous.
Beautiful day.
I haven't had Auntie Anne's since November, and that was the first time in a while. I know we're talking about food, and this is a weird segue and everything. I've been preparing for the Clash this weekend, and I have not had much time to be home and not be asleep and eat. So that's what we do it.
Food. It's one of the top things when you're a human. You got to think about food. You got to think about water. Ross Sortino maybe getting distracted, maybe thinking about food himself as he totally misses the corner. Does get lucky to hold on with a little bit of momentum on the outside, little bit of a Martinsville style move to recover on the outside, but that was him showing that he's feeling the pressure from Rob Campbell.
This is going to be so important how these two drivers are able to get out of the spoon curve onto the backstretch and the run down to 130R. This is a good liftoff from both Sortino and Campbell. Campbell's going to get the advantage, though, with the slipstream. I'm just not sure he's close enough again. And watch Sortino start to pull away out of the Casio triangle here.
And this is fixed setup competition in the GT3 Fixed Series, as per the name. So the only differences between the cars are the differences in the manufacturers. Two Ferraris are exactly the same, but a Ferrari and a Porsche, they've still got their differences in straight line speed and drivability. And Ross Sortino brings it down pit lane, as does race leader Osborne, as does Rob Campbell. And you have to imagine most of the rest of the field's going to follow him in.
Man, they are all snaking in. So what we're seeing is that they could all go 12 laps on a full tank of fuel, and with 6 laps to go, they're going to have a very small amount of fuel put into these cars. How good is pit lane entry and exit going to be? Remember, they have speed limiters, pit lane limiters here, but there are still tenths of a second that will matter for Sortino and Campbell.
Campbell wins the race off pit lane pretty easily there. A couple drivers were actually able to go 1 lap longer. Christopher Rines is extending, Kevin Maillard as well, but critically, Ross Sortino loses out on pit lane. Rob Campbell jumps up into second, and now we can see what can Campbell do when he's unleashed. Can he challenge Osborne for what will be the race lead?
I mean, that was huge, right? And not only that, but Campbell also gained some time. I mean, both Sortino and Campbell honestly gained some time on Osborne. This could be an interesting race in the last 12 minutes of it. We're looking at around 6 laps to go here.
Not a lot of time to make a move, but it's a new name behind Osborne. He hasn't had Campbell behind him so far this season or so far this race, and he might be seeing the reflection of that cow / unicorn on the windshield there, and he might start to get pretty scared.
I mean, wouldn't you? I'm just
what even is it a cow? It is a cow, but it's also a unicorn. A cowicorn? A bovicorn?
A moon.
Because a Pegasus is a horse with wings. So a cow with wings?
That is true. A cow with wings and a horn.
I don't know. It's utterly fantastic. I know that much.
I want to leave.
I don't want things to get spotty, but I'm gonna milk this for everything it's got.
All right. Now you're just let's move along, okay?
Okay, there we go. That was a good end there. They're not big fans of cheese in Japan, so it's probably best we ditch that.
But they are fans of sushi vinegar or whatever. Okay, gotcha. The slippery part is 130R. They've all gotten through it, but this is really close battling now. They are so close together at this point, and it leaves me really excited for this run down the front stretch because Campbell is right there with Osborne.
Yeah, this is the closest Campbell's been, and they're going to take over the race lead here as Maillard and Rines, they got their TV time, they got their screenshots at the top of the ticker, and now we get Campbell and Osborne fighting for this race win. Osborne almost looked like he was going to run away with this, had almost a 2-second lead before that pit cycle kicked off. How about we divide that by about 5 to see Rob Campbell only about 3/10 away now coming through the S's.
Yeah, this is pretty dang close, and I'm really excited to see this Porsche versus Audi battle right here. We haven't really seen it in this race yet, but who has the advantage? Again, I still think that Rob Campbell has the potential to win this race, but does Osborne have just one more gear, one more level to reach in the final 10 minutes of it as they go through Degner curves? And then this hairpin will be interesting. Who has the power, the launch, the acceleration coming out of the corner? Some fast ones coming up after this.
Colin McKenzie's going to get by Andre Benatti at the back of the field. We'll take a look at that when we can, but Campbell deep into the hairpin gets a little bit closer. It's staying at about half a second behind, but what can he do on Osborne compared to what he was able to do with Sortino? He was not able to pass Ross on track. Every time he got close, he wasn't able to get that much closer to actually make the move, but now it's an Audi in front of him. It's a different car in terms of straight line speed, in terms of drivability.
Oh, what a run.
Out of Spoon Curve, but it's a good run from Campbell. He's going to be in the draft.
Oh, what a run. You see those thousands starting to bleed off just a little bit. It's going to be 3/10 this time as they go through 130R. Remember, the biggest disadvantage that Campbell had versus Sortino was through Casio Triangle, the slow corners. Let's look at the gap. It's just under 3/10 as they enter into Casio. And then as we move around this chicane, move on to the front straight, let's see that advantage. Goodness me, Campbell has a good run here.
Within 3/10 of a second now, might be a little bit too far back to actually go for the move into turn 1, but he is making Osborne nervous, and he is making himself known. Bad news for fans of Felix Feliz, by the way. He's dropping down the timesheets. I think he ran into trouble at 130R. But up front, Rob Campbell is making himself known through the S's. He was pretty solid through here last time. Wasn't able to make up much, but he's got to stay within touching distance with only a few laps to go if he wants to make this race win happen. Let's see what happened, though. I believe this is going to be Andre Benatti first, potentially, or actually Felix Feliz through the corner, loops it around, and that is big trouble.
Yeah, that is big trouble right there. Again, you know, it's that corner. The last 3 times we've seen some big incidents go through there. Have they
Barry
all
Cochran,
been,
by the way, in the 7-Eleven, but I believe this is going to be Felix Feliz. Bam.
have they all been Porsches? I know half the field is Porsches, but have all the cars that have had issues around 130R been Porsches, or one was maybe
one was
an
a
Audi,
Ferrari, but he clipped
Ferrari?
the curb, so I think
Right.
that was different.
So could that maybe be part of the reason, you know, Porsches have that center of gravity that's closer to the front, a more bite into the corner? Maybe that's why that's the problem car for 130R. Physics, you know.
Physics. We love physics. That was Andre Benatti, by the way, in the second replay, not Felix Feliz. Andre, unfortunately, going to be totally out now, which is really bad luck for him. He was fighting for P4, excellent qualifying, excellent race, and yet again, it's all going to end in tears for him. Campbell, a little bit further back, though, than he was last time. He's only lost time over the course of this lap, and he is... he's got to do something to reel that back. I've also been corrected once again by our director. That was Felix Feliz in the second replay, but he's still out on track, which is absolutely shocking to me because that was a hellacious impact.
Yeah, that was a brutal, brutal hit right there to that outside retaining
And now
wall.
this is Benatti for realsies.
This is Benatti, yes, for realsies. Doesn't even make the corner. So actually, I think he hit the curb on the entry into one, and it just shot him up, and he hits the wall. That is a that is a little bit embarrassing. There was no contact either, so I don't know why he just towed it. But I mean, except for the kiss to the wall. But nonetheless, that last lap, the difference between Osborne and Campbell was 6.5 tenths. I mean, that is a ridiculous difference, and we were talking about that advantage that Osborne had. I think we see it as here's another replay, the 52. Oh my goodness!
Jeff Carollo Just deciding, you know what? We've had a lot of people take some hard hits through 130R. I'm going to one-up all you guys and take an even harder one.
And the only time we've seen a car move to the right, it was an overcorrection, saved it, but it just completely shot that Porsche to the right side. That's a big slide through the hairpin for Osborne. That just lost him a few tenths.
He's been a little bit slidey recently. They were those little micro slides. He's been able to save it every time, but slowly but surely those start to add up. The tires start to heat up, and the wear starts to set in. Could this potentially be Osborne feeling the pressure yet again through the second half of Spoon? This is where Rob Campbell's been so good in the previous couple of laps. He's going to exit just close enough within draft range to keep that draft going. But we'll ride on board here with Sean Mulholland. He was who got into trouble here at 130R.
Yikes.
Bam. That's from on board him. Was not Jeff Carollo. It was the number 52, not the number 53. I'm not doing too good at reading numbers today, Dylan.
It's okay. Physics, numbers, they're all the same, right? They kind of all work. You know, my middle initials are, right? DRC, what does that say? That is Dr. C. I am your physics instructor.
There we go. I was going to say Democratic Republic of the Congo, but yours was better.
That's a wild that's a wild direction that you're at.
I mean, if you ever go down there, you're going to be like, I'm DRC. You could be the president.
I don't want to be the president of anything. I want to be the president of my own life.
There you go. Another replay. This one's easy, though. It's Tyler Graff. Always easy to differentiate that number 77 with his CMYKs. And that's him looping it around once more. And another Porsche. Don't send this to Porsche. This is not good for their advertising.
No, it's not. I'm telling you, I think it's something to do. I know that, again, like, so much of the field, right, is running that Porsche 911, but I still think that it has something to do with the bite into the corner that these Porsches have. You know, that if they overcook it a little bit, it's going to be twitchy, and there's going to be a lot of oversteer on corner exit, at least in my experience driving the car in sim and also knowing what I know about what I've read about the car.
There we go. Education. Into turn one, though, Joe Carnes. He's actually back out on track. And unfortunately, his return to the racing surface has not gone any better than the first time. It was a very nice Suzuka drift there. But he would not have wanted that.
No, but I am happy that you quickly diverted your mind to Suzuka drift. Did you also go the same? Oh, no!
Oh.
Side! Oh, my goodness. What happened to him? Oh.
Yeah, that is a bizarre place to lose it. He was sideways through the middle of the hairpin there. So I do wonder, did he get any help there, or did he lose it far earlier than that? Well, we'll check that out when we can. He's actually going to get passed one more time by one of the Audis, but here's what happened to Sully. He's got Jeff Carollo in front of him in the highlighter yellow and gray Porsche, and here comes Sully locking up the brakes and sending it into the middle part of the corner.
Yeah, that's just too late on the brakes right there. I don't even know if it's a matter of being too aggressive, but maybe his mind was kind of, I don't know, he was too busy on mirror driving, or I should say shadow driving, that he forgot that he had to put his left foot on the brakes. But we're getting to the point where this race, I don't know if we're at the white flag yet. We will be if the leader crosses the line now. It will be the white flag lap, but there's still a great battle going on all throughout this race.
We might as well highlight the one Mercedes in the field. So it was good to see Drew DeWeese for just a moment there, the only taker in that car. Obviously not the most popular car in GT3 this season, but he said, you know what, I'm going for it. I'm comfortable in it. That's what I want. Sort of like with Raya Osborne. The Audi, not the most popular car in the field. It is the shiny new toy, though, and he has made it very, very fast week after week. And once again, he's pulled a full second over Campbell. I think he's in control of the pace here, but can he avoid making any more mistakes to the end of this race?
Yeah, and he's going to have to deal with some traffic, I think, just ahead if it's slow enough. And also, yeah, there is some traffic. I wonder if that'll play a part. This is not the white flag lap. We've got another lap after this. So that is something to keep in mind as well as we move through this lap at Suzuka. Does that kind of play into your psyche where it's like, okay, we still got to go through. We still got to go through it. And now I see a car up ahead. Does that make me worried a little bit? I don't think so. Not with Osborne, especially with this gap that he's got.
Well, we do have to think about fuel, Dylan, because there's kind of been two schools of thought down the field. Rob Campbell, he's one of a few drivers who's gone for about a 10.8, 11 second stop. Guys like Osborne and a few others, they've gone closer to 12. So could that be the difference with 1 lap on fuel? Andrew Rasmussen not worrying about fuel at all. He, I think, got minimal practice today, unfortunately, and that came to bite him in the S's.
I am so happy you said that phrase, by the way.
I did not realize what I was saying there until after I said that, but I should have taken credit. That was good.
Oh, that was wonderful. Jot that down. Write that down. But this is the white flag.
Bring that one back.
This is the white flag lap. Our producer Dane is very excited at the chat after that. But it's under a second right now. Does Osborne maybe take his foot a gentle bit off the throttle? I don't know. I mean, I say he's in the zone, right? Keep it going the way he feels comfortable.
See the packed stands here at Virtual Suzuka. All these virtual fans, they are here for the PRL GT3 doubleheader, and they're all going to be heartbroken because Ross Sortino from P3, he's off the podium in the S's. No contact made, but Keen's gotten by onto the podium. McKenzie's gotten by as well. Sortino down to P5.
Keen's also one of those drivers who was in the box for only 10.8 seconds. So you have to wonder if he and Campbell, as we get the replay here of what exactly happened to Sortino, that is a unfortunate mistake. Still in the top 5, but could have been so much more.
It's a good save, though. Good job to not get into the wall, but I think he's going to be disappointed. This could have been his return to the podium. It's not quite going to go his way, but through Spoon for the final time. Campbell's been able to close down just a little bit within 0.7 of a second on entry. It balloons up to 0.8 on exit, though. Osborne boasting almost a gap outside of draft range over Rob Campbell, and I think he can finally start to breathe a little bit easier, but through 130R for the final time. This has been the most difficult corner on the track, whether you're an Audi, whether you're a Porsche, but both of them make it through cleanly, and through the Casio triangle for the final time. Hard on the brakes is Osborne, and now hard on the throttle to the line. It's been a triumphant defense. He's had a pink and white car in his mirrors all race long, but for the second time in the PRL, is Raya Osborne is a winner in the GT3 Fixed Series, and Rob Campbell comes up short once again, but that was a sign that he's coming to the rest of this season to win. He's gonna have to beat his Raya Osborne if he wants to do it, though.
Yeah, Osborne, I mean, I'm surprised it lasted for as long as it did. The battles and the driving of Rob Campbell to keep Osborne honest, but at the end of the day, I don't think there's anybody who's surprised with this end result. We saw what qualifying had, right? 0.3 up from first to second. I think this is more of a kudos to Rob Campbell for how quick he was and how honest, again, he kept Osborne throughout it all.
And spare thought for Jared Keen as well. P3 for him, 7 seconds off the lead, but a podium all the same. No mistakes from him. Excellent recovery. And William Fenson as well started P20, if my memory serves me correctly. He finished P8 at the end of that all. Fantastic race from him after his first win last week. But that's going to take us to the finishing results. We got the whole shebang here. 42 cars took to the field at Suzuka, and there's actually still a few finishing the race still. And so we do have to wait about a moment because there's still some stragglers we got to wait for.
Yeah, there always is with a 2-minute lap time here at Suzuka, so we'll have to wait until all of them cross the line. But hey, we do get to see them all do it again, but in an open setup form in GT3 racing. It's going to be great.
It will be. Dylan's exactly right. Add 5 minutes onto the clock, open up the setups. That's the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, and that's coming up directly after we talk to the top 3 in this series. Just waiting for Christopher Perez and Joe Carnes to bring it across the line. I think one of them may have had a little bit of trouble with fuel, but I think he may finally be bringing it across the line as we speak. But that was enough fun in one race, Dylan, with the battle with Campbell and Osborne. I can only imagine what's going to happen in the GT3 Sprint Series, where you've got the SimCity teammates battling it out. You've got Vincent Trepanier as well. We'll get to them in a matter of moments. But as Raya Osborne once again gets to take the glory, and Rob Campbell comes home in second, but a solid return to form for him. Both of those numbers add up to 100% though, which is fitting because they both dominated this race 100% of the time. Jared Keen comes home in third, ahead of Colin McKenzie. Very quiet day from him, but in the second Audi, P4 from him. That's a solid return to form for him too. Sortino so close to the podium, ends up P5. Jason Finch P6 out of another great race for Jay Steffi in P7. William Fenson, big recovery from him ahead of defending champion Jeff Carollo, and Kevin Maillard with an alternate strategy gets himself into the top 10. P11 went to Luke Davis ahead of Buck Hamilton. Graf, Rhines, Walden, Berquist, Deploy, Accord, Sod, and Cabana all ran into assorted amounts of luck and trouble to bring them down to the end of the top 20. And then the hits keep on coming because there were a lot of troubled spots in this race today, but a lot of drivers still finished on the lead lap all the way down to P30. Neil Alexander, Wright, Feliz, Ellis, Thurman, Peterson, Cochran, Luna, Mahler, the other Feliz, and the aforementioned Neil Alexander, all finishing only about a minute behind the leader. Still keeping it going for them. P31 directly underneath was Drew DeWeese, and then Johnson, Rasmussen, Perez, and Carnes down to the end of the lead lap finishers. David Morse ran into a little bit of late trouble, and then we get into the used car lot of drivers with heavy damage. Benatti, Mulholland, Trickett, and Mackay all ran into trouble early, and there were 3 other names who just ran into terrible luck early on. Shreyas Venkataraju in that lap 1 incident, not going to be good for his championship chances. Devin Brock and Travis Pruitt rounded out a 43 car field today. But we get to talk to a driver who's going to be happier than any of them because he's now a 2-time PRL winner. Let's kick things off with our winner, Isaiah Osborne. That was some high pressure, though. You had Rob Campbell pressurizing you for that entire second stint. How does it feel for that to finally be over and take the victory?
Oh, it's a huge relief, man. I had my nephew spotting me, and he was talking me through the whole thing because I was panicking for a moment. I'm like, guys, I said, Rob is quick. So yeah, it's a big relief to have it over, and put some more points on the board.
And I think you're only going to extend your championship lead now as you beat everybody behind you. Basically, they all ran into assorted amounts of trouble. We're going to be past the halfway point of the season now. How are you feeling about potentially holding on to that championship in a couple weeks' time?
I'm feeling pretty good about it so far. My only concern is, I believe it's Okayama. That's about the only track I'm having issues with. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good so far.
Well, Isaiah, congrats on win number 2. Congrats on holding on to the championship lead, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, thank you.
Isaiah Osborne coming home with his second win of the season. We've got the guy who put up a very tough challenge, came up just short. Rob Campbell gets to talk to Dylan Coyle.
Yeah, Rob, what a performance. Of course, Isaiah Osborne was fast and he was on his day, but you were right there and quite impressive throughout. I've got to ask the pit strategy. You came in and you came out with a second saved on Osborne. Was that because did you plan for less fuel? I'm not sure if you obviously don't know what he took, but were you close at the end?
Yeah, well, I could see at the start they were all running pretty similar times, so I figured if I could just stay tucked in behind Ross close enough, I could save enough to possibly jump 1 or 2 of them in the pits. So that was my strategy, and just kind of save and manage my tires the best I could, and hopefully put on a charge at the end to Isaiah. But he was quick out there tonight.
Yeah, so I feel like, that Porsche throughout the night definitely seemed a little bit twitchy. Obviously, you didn't have problems with it, but going through some of the quicker corners, do you feel like it was a bit of an advantage to have that car snap and have a little bit of oversteer a little bit more? It seemed like the slower corners, it struggled.
Yeah, it was kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde car out there tonight. In the fast corners, it was kind of very little steering input possible to keep the back end behind me, because like you said, yeah, it would want to snap loose wicked on you something quick, so I tried to manage the inputs there. But yeah, in the slower corners, it kind of wanted to plow through. Not quite as nimble as the Ferrari or the Audi tonight, but had to try and take advantage where I could, I guess.
Well, congratulations, Rob. And hey, looking forward to see what you can do the second half of this season. Congratulations on the second place finish.
Thank you, guys.
Not a problem. Joey, great performance from Rob tonight.
And a great performance from one more driver as well. We get to talk to third place finisher Jared Keene. It was looking like a fourth place finish until that final lap, but how happy are you with being able to pick up the podium?
Yeah, podium is a good result for me here. It was a strategic race, really, in the draft a good bit. So I was able to save a little fuel and take a little less, and jumped a couple spots, or at least one spot in the pit cycle. So yeah, it was a fun race. It wasn't a fast track though. Could not get it to hook up and spoon at all.
But next week, we go to the newest track on iRacing. We go to Mugello. It's going to be an unknown for every driver in the field. But you've been pretty good at those Formula One Grade 1 tracks so far. Could we see a potential return to victory lane next week? How are you feeling?
Oh, gosh, hope so. I do like new tracks. I dig in and try to learn quicker, the learning curve, have it steeper for me. So hopefully we can get prepared, and it's a team effort, man. We got guys that are running telemetry at SRT and super digging in deep. Also, by the way, shout out to my parents that watch all these. They think you guys are insanely amazing and professional announcers. They can't believe it. It's just such a great production here, guys. I appreciate y'all.
What are their names? What are Mr. and Mrs. Keen's names?
James and Jackie Keen.
Shout out to James and Jackie, a big J family there. We love to see it. Congrats
Roger
on
that,
another podium.
Brother Jonathan.
And we'll see. Oh, and Jonathan, that's fantastic. Can Joey join the family? Can I
Joey, come on over for the holidays, Joey.
I'll be there for Thanksgiving.
All right, Dylan's aren't invited.
Yeah, Dylan's aren't invited, but we'll see you at Mugello next week.
Roger that. See you guys.
Jared Keen coming home P3, and we're making new families, Dylan. This isn't just the Precision Racing League. This is the Precision Found Family League.
This is true, but I know he said Roger that, but I don't know who Roger is. I don't think they fit in.
Yeah, that doesn't start with J.
No, it does not. But jolly good time here at Suzuka in Japan.
But we're going to go one more time around. So, James and Jackie, I hope you're still tuning in because we got the PRL GT3 Sprint Series coming up. As I said, add 5 minutes to the clock, open up the setups for drivers to tinker with, and that spells some big action. A higher strength of field as well, and it has been dominated so far by only a few drivers. Dalton Zavadil coming into this with 2 wins, but everybody else looking to take the fight to him and SimCity Racing. The calendar looks identical, so we're not going to spend too much time talking about that. It is exactly the same as the GT3 fixed calendar, as they're both based on the same iRacing official GT3 calendar. But we can talk to you about those championship standings because it's looking pretty good for Dalton Zavadil as we go to Mugello and Road Atlanta and Okayama and Bathurst, just like the rest of the GT3 fixed calendar. Dalton Zavadil's looking forward to all of that with a 12-point lead now over defending champion, or champion of a couple seasons ago, I should say, Vincent Trepanier.
Hey, still defending a few seasons ago, that crown. I guess you could, I guess defending is not the word. But anyway, this is a good battle, right? Trepanier is fast as anybody on his day, but Zavadil, I think these two are going to continue going back and forth throughout the rest of the season. I wouldn't be surprised for both of those drivers to be starting 1-2 in this race. At least I expect them both to be in the top 5 in this one. And hey, if we do go to the leaderboard after we go through the team standings, we'll see potentially that.
And Trepanier has kind of been trepidatious over the past 2 seasons. He came into last season with some pro-level competition coming into the series, ended up beating them at the end of the season at Lebanon. Could he do the same this season? We'll wait and see. But SimCity Racing have been doing the best job so far. Zavadil with 2 wins, Chris Beats with 1 win in week 1. That adds up to a 23-point lead for the moment, but Advanced Motorsports, they've been very fast. Simon Theriault still waiting for that breakout win, and SimCity Racing 2 as well, with Tabone and Allen and Crisp. It's going to be a pretty hot teams championship battle for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's a good one, and the top 3, just like the last team standings in the fixed series that we saw, it's pretty much a runaway for the top 3. So once we kind of see what happens throughout this race, we'll see what each team will have to do for the final 4, the back half of the schedule, to either make up ground or maintain the advantage that they have. And we join some live pictures, and who else but Trepanier is on top of the board, and he's on top of the board with the first 157 time we've seen in any of the GT3 racing. That is the example right here of open setups. You get faster times based on your driving style than a fixed setup.
And as I was mentioning before, Trepanier has always found a way to get the speed back when he's at a disadvantage. He beat his pro-level teammates with Andrew Caron and Guillaume Levesque last season. He beat them to wins, and he comes into this season a little bit on the back foot with Beats and Zavadil and Tabone and a few others looking very, very quick, but he always knows how to rise to a challenge. And I would not be surprised to see Vincent Trepanier putting himself back in this championship fight. We ride on board now with Mr. Z, Dalton Zavadil, about 3/10 down so far, not where we're used to seeing him. And he's going to see if he can pick up some speed here with only a few laps left on the clock.
Yeah, and of course, starting in P5 provisionally here, he's got a lot of time to get another 2-3 laps here. But of course, those tires, he wants them to be in tip-top. I can't even think condition. Goodness me, can't even think of the words here.
Well, I'm happy you're here, Dylan, because every time Arjuna's in the booth and we see this guy, I call him Mr. Z because that's his nickname.
Mr. Z. That's okay.
I had a teacher. And Arjuna always says Mr. Z, but this guy's American. He's not Mr. Z. Okay. He's Mr. Z.
That is true. My teacher back in high school was Mr. Zelensky. Or no, that is. No,
is he the president of Ukraine now?
What was his name? No. Wait a second.
I don't think it was
Zittarelli. It was
Mr.
Zittarelli. Zelensky is the last name of the Ukrainian president.
Yeah, that's the president of Ukraine.
A person at my at our race shop.
There we go. Double Zelensky.
Z, Mr. Z.
Dalton Zavadil, Mr. Z himself, through Spoon Curve. Maybe a little bit of trouble through the first part of there. Did a little bit of a run over the curb. But things are so close here in this part of the order. Trepanier's pretty dominant up front, only driver in the 157s. But from Jimmy Yebra in second down to Daniel Krasowski in sixth, that's not even a tenth of a second separating those 5 drivers.
Yeah, that is unbelievably close, and I hope that means we're gonna have a great podium battle. I don't know if it bodes well for the lead battle, but it is a closer advantage, I guess you could say, for Trepanier over Jimmy Libre, rather than Trepanier going for a.
He was helping out his teammate there. He had Simon Theriault behind him, giving him a draft down the front straight and getting out of the way in turn 1.
Now that is teamwork right there, for sure. I mean, you give them the slipstream and then get out of their way so you don't let any of the dirty air affect them. Smart.
And I like Simon Theriault because he has kind of been in Vincent Trepanier's shadow over the past couple of seasons. He came into the PRL in the GT4 series about a year ago, won his very first race, and hasn't quite been able to do that since. And I'm really waiting to see a breakout performance from him. Can he be faster than his teammates for 1 week? Maybe win his first race in GT3 competition and finally show himself as a real championship contender. It's not going to happen on this lap as the Bassmaster Ethan Bass gets held up. Trepanier is going to get back ahead of Theriault, and they're going to go for their organization again. But this makes me very happy, Dylan. Ethan Bass bringing the Ford back this season. I love it.
That is incredible. I saw it, and my eyes just they just widened because I'm like, wait a second, I haven't seen that car in a long time. So it is a beauty. You look at that dash. It takes me back a little bit.
It's old-fashioned. It's beautiful.
It's wonderful. It is beautiful, and that car does look mean.
And the Bassmaster loves this car. He's done some pretty solid work in it. Hasn't won a race in it, as Eric Hulaga did in the GT3 Fix Series, but he's been very fast. And I believe it was at Le Mans last season that he was legitimately fighting for the podium in this car. Not sure if that's going to happen here, but let's see what he can do. Driving directly into the sun through the Casio Triangle. Is there going to be any improvement from P12 for Ethan Bass across the line? It's not tracking well for him, but he's going to get one more lap on the clock.
Yeah, one more lap, and he's going to have more than enough time to make this a lap. Starting just outside the top 10 in P12 provisionally. By the way, 1-2, Dalton Zavadil. How about that?
And he says, I don't have enough fuel to go to the end of this qualifying session. He brings it back to the pits. That's an interesting difference between the Fixed Series and the Sprint Series. In the Fixed Series, you're set with your fuel amount in qualifying, so you're only going to be allowed to burn fuel. Jimmy Yebra getting into some big trouble there through the Degner. That's going to be the end of his lap. But in this series, you can play with the fuel in qualifying. You can make it as light as possible and just go for a one-lap glory run. So if you are Dalton Zavadil, for example, you got your 1 lap done, you're bringing it back to the pits. There's nothing to be gained for putting extra fuel in the car like there would be in the fixed series, since it burns off over the course of the session.
This is actually a really good point there, and that's obviously going to change how these cars handle. Again, I keep talking about the Porsche, but it's so unique in the sense that because of where that tank is and how that car handles, more fuel is going to almost provide a little bit of weight. Less fuel is going to make it more twitchier, if you will. Watch RaceSpotTV on YouTube, by the way.
Yes, please. Please do that. Don't go to the other rival website. That's not allowed. But checkered flag is out in qualifying. Laps will count now as drivers cross the line. Most of the field is done by now, but there's still a few others out on track. Ethan Bass on a timed lap right now. I think Vincent Trepanier is still out there helping out his teammate Simon Theriault. But we're going to see the Bassmaster cross the line first through 130R for the final time, levitating that Ford over the curb. Let's see what he can do with 2 more corners to go.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Kind of got unsettled there, though, jumping over the curbs, but got a good launch coming out of the final corner. This could be a solid time. Long run down to the line, though.
The Bassmaster up into the top 10 in the Ford. Excellent lap from him. What can Theriault do from P5? Any improvement for him? Looks like the answer is going to be no. He'll be starting P5 with his teammate on pole. But it's still a solid day for Advanced Motorsports. For the first time this season, Vincent Trepanier will head the field as he looks for his first win of the season. But SimCity Racing, they're not done. They've got one more bullet in the tank here. The number 957 of Martin Crisp, running slightly injured tonight, I believe. Oh, and he's going to be a little bit more injured with the drift through 130R.
I mean, injured in one way, but the car is still in fine shape, as Sammy Hendricks, who I'm sorry if I see that name and think Jimi Hendrix for any moment in time. It's just a association with the way his name is spelled. Am I wrong?
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And what an excellent team name, by the way. Tenuto Delta Simtech.
That is awesome.
That is a team name that should be racing at Suzuka. That sounds like a super GT team.
Man, GT500 cars. Love that.
Excellent stuff. GT3 cars. That's what we're all about tonight, though. We love them. And let's see what Sammy Hendricks can do into the Casio Triangle. One of the only Audis in the Sprint Series. Not quite as popular as they are in the Fixed Series. Jason Allen's going to put it up to P14. He's not going to cause any trouble for Sammy. And Sammy's not going to cause any trouble for Sammy as he elects to practice a pit entry with a couple seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, and I just want to say, this is when the broadcaster jinx is less of a jinx and more of a prediction that came true. You know who's won too, right?
Vincent Trepanier and Mr. Z.
Mr. Zed. I'll fill in Arjuna's role.
There we go. Good stuff.
Mr. Zed.
Still waiting on a couple stragglers here, waiting for the clock to tick down to 0, but 24 cars here in the Sprint Series, a little bit of a smaller grid, but there's going to be the same amount of action, I think, with some big names up at the top of the timesheets and some big names down at the bottom looking to move their way forward as well. Missing Brandon Tabone this week as he is sick, but his teammate Martin Crisp, the reason why he's actually here despite being slightly injured is that he needed to help out the team's championship with SimCity Racing 2. And if Brandon Tabone was going to be out, they needed a second car to score points, and Crisp is here to help that out. But we do have the grid for you, and we get to see a very familiar sight at the head of qualifying. Vincent Trepanier, for what I'm going to count as the 30th time in the Precision Racing League, will start from pole. Those are all-time numbers from Trepanier, tying Greg Seitz up there in the top 10. But he starts alongside Mr. Z, Dalton Zavadil, who's going to be looking to defend his championship lead. Jimmy Yebra, his best qualifying of the season. He starts P3 alongside Chris Beets. And then Simon Theriault and Dan Krasowski round out the top 6. Fernando Jaquez, the second CRT car, starts alongside Abner Acosta. Ethan Bass, the Bassmaster, starts alongside Martin Crisp, racing injured but still putting it in the top 10. David Mendonça and Sammy Hendricks round out the top dozen, but we're only halfway through the field as lead driver Stuart Arnaud-Genet is unlucky 13th alongside Jason Allen. And then a winner in the PRL Truck Series this season, Miguel Fonseca, starts alongside Kevin Sibson. Downtown Gary Brown's going to be looking forward alongside JP Alfonso. And behind them, 19th Marc-Andre Desjardins alongside 20th Thomas Dunn, Littleton and Nin, Ruiz and Sosno round out the 24-car field. There may be one other driver on the grid. Cameron Keeley, P25, wasn't able to get a lap in qualifying, and I'm not sure if we'll see him actually start this race. A smaller field, Dylan, almost half as big as the Fixed Series field, but you see those names at the head of the field, and that tells us it's going to be just as exciting of a chase up front.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw so many close times throughout the rest of the top 10 that I'm really hopeful that, hey, even if we don't get a battle for the lead, which I think we will in this one, we're going to see some good, hard racing between these vehicles, which by my calculation, Porsche. Come on, keep it going, Joey.
That's a lot of Porsches. Keep them coming.
Porsche.
I think that's
Porsche. Ford.
Yeah, the first Porsche is Ethan Bass in the Ford. That's pretty incredible.
I love it. It's gonna be fun. I really am curious to see what Bass is gonna be able to do in that Ford GT machine. We don't really see it, right? It's an oldie, but it's a goodie, and I think with the BOP that iRacing sets, and of course these open setup races, we could see a surprise from Bass.
One word answer, Dylan. Who's going to win this race?
It's going to be Trepignet, for sure.
That's a lot more than one word, but you heard it from Dylan there. Vincent Trepignet, with the endorsement of Dylan Coyle and the control of the field, takes the green flag for the second time tonight. Zavadil slots in line. Simon Theriault in the second Advanced Motorsports car. An excellent start from him. Almost up into second already. Is into turn one. Vincent Trepignet leads over Jimmy Yebra. I was distracted and missed the fact that Dalton Zavadil is not actually up there in the front. It was a terrible start from him in the other black and yellow car. That's actually Jimmy Yebra up into second. Dalton Zavadil's down to sixth.
Oh, there's a spin. Oh, no. All right. Listen, he surprised me in an unfortunate way right there.
He did well in qualifying, but the Bassmaster spins into the gravel and the S's. Man. But what happened on the start there, Dylan? I think we were all screwed up there because there's two black and yellow cars, but Dalton Zavadil on the outside just doesn't get going, and Yebra and Simon Theriault just swallow him up on the inside.
That's a bump draft and a half right there. Is he just pushing him into the corner almost, it felt? And then there's a bit of a block. They're just shuffling positions, almost like a deck of cards, trying to find your place, and then sliding around the outside. So far, so good. It's on the exit of the turn 1-2 complex, whatever you want to call those, that set of corners. I like to say they're two separate ones. Bass just kind of got a little bit too tight, pushed a car kind of on the inside of the upcoming S-curve. And Zavadil
in trouble into the hairpin, gets into the back of Fernando Jaquez and goes all the way to the back of the field.
Man, that is a huge mistake from the driver who needs a good result here. Goes all the way to the back. That is race win contention over for him.
Yeah, Mr. Z, unfortunately, there's not 26 cars in the field, so we don't have the whole alphabet represented, so he's about Mr. X right now. He's 24th in line. See what he can do over the course of the day to try and recover. You do have that drop week in this series, but Zavadil had a mediocre week in round two, finished low in the top 10. So he's going to have a big day ahead of him to keep his championship hopes alive. But back up front, Vincent Trepignet still leads. Jimmy Yebra in second, and Dan Krasowski, he's run into trouble on the opening lap. He's had to come down for what I can only imagine might be a similar similar start issue as we saw in race one in the Fixed Series.
Yeah, but it wasn't really a start issue. It looked like more of a mechanical issue or a technical issue that was happening at the home sim rig. In that Fixed Series race. This comes after lap one, so I have to imagine that you are absolutely correct that it is some kind of starting issue here.
Yeah, and it was a drive-through. He didn't stop on the box. So that is we've seen some funky stuff in the start zone here at Suzuka so far. Whether it was the start of the previous race with Zavadil getting swallowed up and Krasowski getting this penalty, it's been funky so far.
Yeah, absolutely, it has been funky, and I mean, it's a shame, right? We thought that Mr. Z, was going to have a great shot, only a 10.5 off of Trepignet's time through qualifying, starting 1-2, championship competitors, a championship battle. Now it's a way for Trepignet to just run away with this championship fight. I mean, this is huge, right? This is a massive blow to any championship hopes that Zavadil had for this one.
But now we get a very funky combination here. I'm going to use the word funky for about the 17th time, because you've got Vincent Trepanier, one of the all-time drivers in GT3 in the PRL, 20 wins. Hasn't won this season, though. The driver behind him, Jimmy Yebra, has also never won in the PRL, but he's a very different kind of driver. Vincent Trepanier up in the lead. His day job is as a city bus driver. Jimmy Yebra, second in line. His day job is as a junior Porsche Motorsport North America driver. Those are the two kinds of careers you got together on track in the PRL.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, both of them have a wheel in their hands on their day jobs, and then they come to the sim. They sit down and put their hands on the wheel and go a little bit faster. Well, one of them goes a little bit faster in the race tonight in Precision Racing League action.
And that does make you wonder, if you are Vincent Trepanier, because that's not an insult on Trepanier whatsoever. He is the city bus driver who's driving faster than a pro right now.
That's amazing to me. I mean, I'd like to see some bus racing. We've got that at the summer shootout at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Well, you gotta get Vincent down from Quebec. Give him a flight and put him in.
I'll say, est-ce que tu parles un peu français? By the way.
No, I got nothing. The only thing I can say in French is je suis très délicieux.
I am very. Okay.
That's the one. I can also say petit pois.
Okay. Well,
and jambon beurre, which is the delicious sandwich.
The really strong pronunciation with the
Poisson.
French inflection is
Poisson.
interesting. Yes, now you just sound like Jimmy from Carl from Jimmy Neutron. But I continue with Vincent Trepanier doing quite a great job here. But is this not giving you a little bit of a flashback to what we saw in the fixed race?
Yeah. Speaking of French, I'm getting deja vu.
Very good, very good, very good. It's been a bonsoir kind of thing, you know. It's a good night.
There we go. I needed the translation. I wouldn't have been able to get that otherwise.
You're welcome. Je parle français.
There we go. I've always said we need a French, sort of a French side broadcast, because the PRL is a French-Canadian league led by Jerome Berthiaume of Quebec.
This is true.
I always think we need some French things, but Dan Krasowski in a little bit more trouble potentially. JP Alfonso's fallen down the order as well, because these two have potentially been involved in a little bit of trouble together. Yep. There's JP losing it through Spoon Curve. Is Krasowski about to come on the scene behind him potentially?
We'll have to see right here. It's a sympathy spin for sure. Oh man, that is unfortunate for both drivers. But you go through Spoon Curve, you take a little bit too much of the curb, and then you go for a little bit of a drift of your own. And we haven't really seen too many catastrophes so far in this race for the Porsche drivers. It's been, Audi, it's been Ford, and not really Porsche yet. That's an important phrase.
And JP did a very good job last night in the LMP3 GT4 Challenge. Made his debut this season a couple weeks ago and got his best result at Sandown last night. He's been on the up and up. We've been seeing better things from him. Martin Crisp, though, let's check in on our injured buddy here in the Magenta SimCity Racing entry. He's doing a solid job. He's doing Martin Crisp things, which is only a testament to, I think, Martin's ability. Even when he's not at 100%, even when he's driving basically with 1 foot, he's still got enough pace to run in the top 8 right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is driving like I like my French fries crisp. That is right now what Martin Crisp is doing for SimCity Racing 2. It's a matter, though, of he's a little bit too far back, right? He's a second behind 7th in that 55 machine ahead of him. It's starting to become a tiny bit of he's the lead of a train, and you see that train. It's pretty frequent how the gaps are behind them. Very consistent. So, that's something to look out for. How does he handle the pressure, and does he make that machine as wide as possible throughout every course or every turn at this course?
And something that's also confusing with the SimCity Racing drivers is that you've got Chris Beats and you've got Martin Crisp. So at some points, Chris beats Crisp, and at other points, Crisp beats Chris Beats. It gets confusing.
I hate trying to say the past tense of edit and then it.
Edit.
Mm-hmm. And you should know a lot about that.
Unfortunately, I do. Ethan Bass knows a lot about making moves into turn 1. Good stuff from him there. That almost looked like there was a slowdown for Jeremy Littleton. Made that job very easy, but...
Flash the headlights.
Yeah, booked the Bassmaster up into P17, and Gary Brown, we call him Downtown Gary Brown. He is moving uptown, and he's right behind Miguel Fonseca for the last spot in the top dozen.
My goodness. We're talking about uptown, and he's been living in a Suzuka world right now, for sure. He's going up the S's, and he's flying right now. I like to see him get a top 10 in this race. He's quite deserving of it based on his drive through the first quarter of the race. It's just, can he put the pieces together to make moves? It's hard to make moves at this racetrack, especially when drivers in front aren't making mistakes. That's a mistake right there from the 86 machine. Went a little bit too wide through Degner 1. Bit of a run now to the hairpin.
Let's see if we can get it rolled into the hairpin. You know, you may have the uptown girl, Gary Brown, but I think, Dylan, it's still quack and roll to me back here.
Goodness me, man.
Oh, but
I'm so proud of you.
Let's quack and roll the replay, unfortunately. It's about to get worse for him. This is how he ended up behind Jeremy Littleton. Just a little bit of an oopsie.
Yeah, that was a big problem there. And you know, they say that only the good die young, and looks like that car, that battle for him might have went the wayside pretty quickly.
Oh, that was a phenomenal save from Fernando Jaquez. As we saw that, I thought we were about to tune into direct calamity, and somehow Jaquez was able to save that. Chris Beats gets by him, but Fernando still running with a perfectly clean car, which nobody's been able to do, saving a spin like that through 130R.
My goodness, that you know, we've talked about scenes from a German restaurant. We almost saw a platter of Porsche into the wall.
But now can Chris hang on? He was not in this position by speed. He's made this move on Jaquez, but Jaquez has been faster. And now he's got to try and recover through the S's. The greener car is Chris Beats. The slightly less green car is Jaquez. Don't get them mixed up. And they're about to get mixed up themselves as Fernando is pushing 100%. Let's see what happened when he pushed a little bit too hard through 130R.
Oh my goodness! Look at that quick overcorrection twice.
That was like four. That was like 4 saves in one.
That's unbelievable from Jaquez. That was perfect recovery driving, right? You don't want to push it too hard. Once you feel that car start to snap loose, of course it's a Porsche, so it's going to be even quicker. That reaction time has to be instant, right? It's got to be in a flash. He did such a good job. Yeah, that car maybe was moving out from under him, but I'll tell you what, look at this. Oh, what a save!
And smart driving there from Chris to be able to actually get by there, not get into the back of Fernando. So well done by both of those two drivers. And it's still good to see the colors of CRT, even though they are different this season. The Seabow Racing Team, they've been very, very prominent in the PRL over the past couple seasons. Luis Grullon, so successful in the GT3 Fixed Series. Jaquez and a few others in this Sprint Series have been very fast as well. Jimmy Yebra joining now for a country, the Dominican Republic, that we don't often think about in sim racing worlds. They have a lot of highly talented drivers, and it's good to see their sort of national team here. But how about a beauty shot of this save, Dylan? Perfect slow-mo, Fernando, and Chris Beats getting by.
That is just unbelievable. Under the fire that none of us started, in the sun just falling down, that was perfect. Beautiful.
I'm just starting to get bored with the Billy Joel references, Dylan. I think I'm gonna be sleeping with the television on in a minute.
Are you gonna send me down the River of Dreams?
I might have to. I might leave here. I might go to Allentown.
Well, maybe you should tell her about it, or tell Dalton Zabadil about it, as he's trying to make some moves throughout the field.
I don't know this guy in the booth. He's just the stranger to me. I think I'm running out.
Oh man, this is a lot of pressure.
What's the one from the dog movie? From Oliver and Company? Why should I worry?
Oh. Listen, I know we probably shouldn't be making as many Billy Joel references. I know Dane, I might be saying to Dane that he may be right, and I may be crazy, but I just don't know if, we should continue on this way.
But how good would it have been in the original series, or in the GT3 Fixed series rather, when we had Lunatic Racing, it just might be a lunatic you're looking for.
I know. My gosh, that would have been. We should have gotten it right the first time.
Yep, and there's no Chevys here, so you really can't trade in your Chevy for a Cadillac unless you move to Monday nights with the GTPs.
And you can absolutely do that. Precision Racing League has series all week: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all different disciplines. And I'll tell you what, Kawaki is definitely going some fast moves right here, but got a little bit wide on the X of the spoon. But in the slipstream, I think too far back to make a move in a 130R unless he's a crazier man than I am, and that might be the way it goes. He was thinking about it. He wanted to be a big shot there.
And look who's directly behind these guys. Dalton Zavadil knows he's faster than these two, but he's got to be smart. He's got to find a way to get by, and he's got to make sure he doesn't take any of them out as innocent bystanders. Down the front straight, Dalton actually says, I'm not going to take either of you out. I'm not going to race with you. I'm going off strategy. I'm coming down pit lane. Dalton Zavadil looking for clean track.
Yeah, I think Dalton Zavadil doing a good job of just leaving a tender moment alone between those two drivers in front. Did not want to push the issue, but it could have been an interesting battle there.
It should still be interesting, though, between Kwok and Jeremy here. Ferrari versus Audi. One of the few Ferraris in this series, unfortunately, with Jeremy Littleton behind the wheel. We did have another one. Christian Challoner was with us for the first couple of rounds this season, and we almost just lost Jeremy Littleton there. Big bobble through the S's. That's going to get Kwok around the outside.
Oh my goodness, we almost had to say goodbye, not just to Hollywood, but the slow-moving vehicle in front. That could have been a bad moment for all of these cars in this battle, and man, we've been focusing a lot on this because this is aggressive, right? These two drivers, they're not driving the best, right? They're making some mistakes. Look at that Porsche lockout, by the way. Top 9, all Porsches. Unbelievable.
Sammy Hendricks giving the Audis a little bit of representation at the end of the top 10. Good for him, but Jason Allen pretty close behind him, so we may see a Porsche lockout in the top 10. Let's see what Jeremy can do here. If that Ferrari is reasonably fast in a straight line, can he stick with Kwok, though? Through Spoon Curve, Kwok has clean track in front of him for the first time. He has clean air on the nose of that Audi. And can he do any good work with it on exit over the curb? I think that's a good enough exit to hang on, but Jeremy is still there, making sure he puts the pressure on.
Yeah, trying to get the pressure on. It's just so hard to do, especially, listen, I love how these GT cars handle, but you're never going to avoid dirty air completely, right? You're always going to have to deal with it. And Suzuka is that kind of track where these long sweeping corners leads to a lot of situations where you have to deal with the dirty air. And it's not like a oval, right? Where at an oval, to not deal with the dirty air, you'll move maybe to a different lane, a different groove in the track and find that clean air. It leads to a lot of differing strategy. There's only one spot in any corner here in road racing where you got to plant that car for the best possible time. And unless it's wet, which of course rain will be coming soon to iRacing, in dry conditions, there's only one line that always works. And if there's a car in front, you're going to have to deal with that dirty air.
Back up front, Vincent Trepanier still leading this little train. He's not been able to run away from Yebra or from Tirio. What is he going to be thinking about behind the wheel right now? He's used to dealing with pressure. He's had some of the best in the PRL ever bearing down on him, and he still managed to win. But he's still got Yebra behind him, who is going to be a tough customer. He's been keeping him within about 0.8 of a second all race long. And I don't think that pressure is going to give up until the checkered flag.
Yeah, I really don't think that the pressure is going anywhere, and I'm really excited to see where this battle where it starts. I mean, it's already heated up, right? It's already an unbelievable battle between these drivers, but once they go into the pits, which it could happen any moment now. I think they're still going to try and run it dry. Right around a lap from now will be that halfway point. I just don't know. I don't think they're going to come down now, right? I think they're going to wait until, what was it? How many minutes did we go the first time, right? We went 12 laps, and throughout this race so far, we are not through.
Ooh, bad news for Simon Tirio fans from P3. The internet issues have come back. They've hit him a couple times over the past few seasons. And I think this may be the end of Tirio's podium journey. I don't see him coming back into the session. I don't see him reloading. That is terrible luck. A little bit of unreliability, a lot of bit of unreliability, and now he's out. Simon Theriault from third place is done, dropped out, internet issues.
Television turned off there.
It's terrible stuff.
It is.
That was one of his best races as well. He was putting the pressure on Yebra, helping out his teammate a little bit. And poor old Simon Theriault. There's no Boris Ovando tonight. He's usually the driver with the internet issues, and I guess somebody had to inherit him.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's a shame, right? The internet issues and any technical glitch that you've got at your own place, as we catch a replay right here.
We're about to see a poof. Get ready to see some magic.
Woo!
Boop. Out of the corporeal realm.
The corporeal realm.
That is such a shame. And that is something we always talk about, Dill, because you've got unreliability in real life. In one of Jimmy Yebra's races, he could have an engine expire and blow up. In a virtual race, you can have your internet expire and blow up. So it's a little bit of accidental realism.
Yeah, and I don't mind it at all, right? Everybody has to have the equipment working to get the job done. And earlier in the fixed race, we saw that there was probably a bit of a pedal issue going on for one of the competitors in that one. So it makes sense, right? In the real world, you cannot simulate what you'd in the real world of sim racing, right? You can't simulate all the time mechanical failures because at the end of the day, they're completely random, while in real life motorsport, there's a reason for a mechanical failure, and it always could be avoided, even when you try your best to make sure every part is right and accurate and will work well. Sometimes it's just a force of nature. In sim racing, it's randomized. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So when you do have a problem on your own end, it does kind of give that accidental realism.
20 minutes left to go. We're halfway in this race, and we've got a train behind Martin Crisp. Arnaud Genet has not been able to get by him. Sammy Hendricks has joined the train. Miguel Fonseca actually doing a solid job down at P10. But here is Mr. Crisp himself. We get to see him on camera, I believe, for the first time. Not only providing us with his stream feed, but also providing us with his own face, and that's good to see. I love to see the faces of these people.
Yeah, me too. This is it's pretty awesome to get to see. Now, I love this. I love talking about this when it comes to anything in motorsports and driver cams, especially though at a track like Suzuka. I want you to watch his face on the left and see this corner coming up. He leans to the right, he looks to the right, and then the wheel turns. The wheel will never turn without your eyes looking first. If that happens, you will go into the wall because you won't turn towards where you're not looking. You have to be looking at an area to make that turn happen. I mean, just try it. Hey, listen, I'm not advocating for you to do this, but on your drive to work, maybe look somewhere else. Don't do that. Please don't do that. But
I'm actually pulling up Martin Crisp's Twitch right now because I want to see, is there anybody in the chat right now giving him some encouragement? I thought it was Crispy iRacing, but I think he may have changed it.
Oh, I don't know what he's changed it to, but I will tell you this.
I got him. It's just Martin Crisp now. It is plain old Martin Crisp. And there are people in the chat, so shout out to Rocket Johnny, to Emmanuel Morales, Piero Sim TV. They're all rooting the man on. They're giving him some extra speed.
Hey Joey, next time you are trying to make a big move in the PRL Wednesday night Grand National or Truck Series races, what I want to see from you is look to the right, try to turn left, see how it goes for you.
I'll try my best. It's always hard for me, but I think I'm gonna flip my feet around. Actually, I'm gonna flip my monitor. Okay. I'm gonna turn left,
your feet,
turn right. Yeah, cross my feet, cross my hands.
That's a fun challenge.
I've had it too easy, and I've had it too easy. I gotta start making things harder.
Too many top 15s and 20s.
Yeah, too many DNFs for one season, so I think I got to go in reverse. I got to make it harder to make it easier.
Turn right to go left.
Exactly, just like Doc Hudson said.
Yeah, that's what Leighton McQueen learned.
This is also a very stressful situation to be in, by the way, because not only is Martin Crisp being very directly hounded by a car behind, that's Arnaud Genet, lead driver steward of the PRL. You don't want to get into an incident with him because that causes a lot of trouble. You don't want to have him recuse himself from the investigation, and you don't want to make him angry.
Yeah, you don't want to make anybody angry, right? But I feel like you're talking about the stress that you face in a situation like this. You, Joey, you know, right? You have been. I like to mess with you from,
everything that we see from your wonderful races in PRL action, as we see Ganas's face right here and kind of see that formula wheel going to work with triple monitors, it looks like. But I want to hear from you. If you are in a battle and you have been racing pacing in the top 10 before, listen, I've seen it. It's true. It's happened. You are doing that, and if you're in a battle and cars are right on your tail, how do you mentally stay focused?
I don't, and I spin.
Okay. Well, never
There's
mind.
the answer. There's the answer. But that's why these guys are at such a high level. That's why, even with a short field in the GT3 Sprint Series this season, the SOF, the iRating on average, the skill of these drivers is still so high that you see a guy like Arnaud Genet, Martin Crisp, they're fighting for 7th and 8th. Both of these guys are winners in the PRL, and they're fighting deep in the field because the strength is that high.
Uh-oh, pit stops, and I believe it's come after 12 laps of racing time. 13 is what I'm seeing for the Canadian driver, so they could go a little bit longer here, I guess, with this open setup. But something's different because, I mean, pretty much everyone has stayed out, and they've made 13, going to be 14 laps by the time they maybe come down pit lane.
Look at how close Jimmy is, though. That was about a second gap for the majority of the time in these in the first 25 minutes of this race. But Jimmy Ibra now within 0.4 of a second, and this is gonna be dicey coming into the pits, likely on this lap or the next few. If Jimmy can get close, we saw a jump in the pits for second and third in the fixed series. Who's to say if it could happen the same way for first and second here?
I mean, it's pretty awesome right here. We're getting a battle between Libre and Trepanier, and Beats, he's in third. Obviously, he's not in this battle because of some of the pit stops. He is in third, though. I wonder if these two left to fight on their own accord with only just over a half second in between them. The sun is not blaring down, right? It's not that hot of a track unless I'm shown otherwise, which our producer might do because it's funny to say I'm wrong. But yeah, it's cold as heck. Look at that. I mean, these tires, it's going to be hard to get them up to temperature coming out of pit lane. How about that? Is that something to think about once you cool them off just a little bit? Do they have kind of a period where, well, you got to break them back in again?
I wish that was cold, Dylan. 66 degrees. It was 30
Celsius.
It was 37 here today, unfortunately.
Oh,
so
I was like, wait a second. 66 degrees Celsius would be on the sun.
Yeah, you were right. I'm just so cold up here in Connecticut. I could go for 66 degrees any day of the week.
I had to brush off some frost down here just above Charlotte, North Carolina, man. So
it was nice. People at home don't know, I was in Charlotte for 4 days over the last week, and it was like 60 degrees every day. It was nice.
Well, I am very glad that you were in Charlotte and did not tell me at all. I'll remember that.
I'll be back. Bud. I'll be back. I hope Miguel Fonseca comes to Charlotte as well. We can have a whole party, and we'll be able to see how his heart rate is running.
I was going to say that. Do you want to have his heart rate on display at a party?
Yes, absolutely.
Understood. Understood.
Because you get to see who it goes up with, who it goes down with.
That is devious, my friend. Devious.
And just don't subtract 6. But I like the guitar behind him as well, because that's another thing.
The heart rate's gone up.
Yeah, maybe he's heard that we're talking about him, but we see so many drivers with like model cars in the background or racing memorabilia or whatever. More musicians. Give me more instruments. We got to start the PRL band.
He's just shredding on the guitar, and that's all that matters. Is he's got that Marshall. I think that's an amp down there too, a speaker or something. So we got him
on guitar. Arjuna can play the guitar. I think there's some. Yeah, we'll get you on the keyboard. There's some guy, I think, who has a bass in his background. I'm sure there's some drummers. We could get a whole band going.
The RaceSpotTV road crew. Okay, look at that heart rate monitor. The heart is not beating as quickly as it just was, but it is still beating quite fast. So it was just at, 125? And now it's under 100. Is he... I hope he's okay. Yeah, it's going back.
He's calming down. He's calming down. He is
he's on the straightaway, right? So he's on the straightaway.
Athlete. But the pit cycle's kicking off here. Sorry, Miguel. We do have to leave your heart rate, unfortunately. No more. I hope you can avoid the bradycardia there. But Vincent Trepanier and Jimmy Ibra, 1 and 2 in this race. Bring it down pit lane at the identical time. And who is going to win this race off pit lane? Trepanier gets to pull all the way to the front, but did I just see him back up a little bit there? That may have just been the bump on pit lane, but this is going to be close.
Oh, man, even if it wasn't... he's fine. Yeah, he's fine.
He's fine.
He's fine. You got us excited. But I'll be honest, they come out with pretty much the same gap that they had to each other from first and second. So almost identical pit stop times. I'll tell you that if we look at their top times, it was actually 0.3 quicker for Libre than Trepanier. But, I mean, at the end of the day, 0.3, that's your pit box time, right? That's not your in or your out. That is minuscule. You can see, though, there is a bit closer of a difference between those two drivers who are currently in 7th and 8th. No, Zabadil again. No.
And that was Krasowski ahead of him. They were both on their comeback drives after early trouble, and Zavadil trying to go for P13, loops it around. He's able to get it going again. There is some asphalt runoff there in turn 1, luckily, but that's going to be another punch to the gut for Zavadil, who is already having a bad day, and the championship leader, it's gotten even worse.
Yeah, it's gotten much, much worse for Zavadil, and goodness me, here's a replay. I don't... That is a hard lesson in side-by-side contact, very minuscule contact. From that very brief look, Mr. Tebben, it's a racing incident?
I think the stewards will probably agree with that. This is a little bit of trouble, though, for Vincent Trepanier. A former teammate of his, Marc-Andre Desjardins, has not yet pitted, so this is 4 position on track. Is Desjardins about to cause a little bit of trouble for Trepanier and hold him up just that little bit before he comes down pit lane?
If there's any corner that he's going to hold him up, it's going to be these set of corners through Casio Triangle. And does he go into pit lane? Yes, he does. So he doesn't even get the benefit of the slipstream, which I think hurts Trepanier even more so. The gap, it's not stable, right? But it is still half a second between these two. It's close. I think it's going to be this way for quite a bit. Right now, we're looking at 5 more laps in this race. Maybe 6 if they get back to the line in time.
Oh, we always love a race against the clock.
Except when it's 23 hours and 58 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yes, that one is unfortunately a little bit more negative. But if these guys do get that little bit closer, I wonder when Jimmy will actually be able to make the move, because we saw in race 1 of the night in the GT3 Fixed Series, Campbell was not actually able to make a move on Osborne for the lead. But Trepanier and Yebra, could they be in a different situation? Could they be racing closer? Arnaud Genet from 9th in the pack, he's watching this on. He doesn't want to see any contact. But I think some of the fans may.
Yeah, for sure. At the very least, I want to see some good, hard racing between these drivers, and that's what we've seen in this open race. Hey, you have half the field. The quality has not changed one bit. Great racing in this one, and I don't know about you, but it's been entirely exciting. Top 14 drivers, 2 of them are running in non-Porsche vehicles. They're in Audis. The first Ferrari in the field is 15th, and Gary Brown. There's only 2 Ferraris in this field, so it's really, again, the Porsche show, and that's just the preferred car. I wonder if that almost is... Why do you think that is? I don't know if it's because some drivers like the more nimble feeling of the car, especially around corners where, yes, oversteer is definitely possible, but maybe some better acceleration or just, I don't know. More on edge you feel, the faster your car will be. But that was a horrible corner exit coming into this final curve.
Yebra's going to get a little bit of a chance down the front straight, see what happens there. I do want to give a couple of shout-outs to 2 drivers in the top 10 we haven't really talked about, because Abner Acosta right now is having his best race of the season in P5. This is a driver who decided this season he's going to take his focus off the oval side. He's still racing in the PRL Cup Series. He's still getting some oval racing in, but he said, I am focusing on Tuesday nights. I am focusing on road racing again. I want to get back to my old ways and be a race winner again on the road side. And he's done a solid job today in P5. Still a couple more steps to be made to be back into race winning pace, but this was a building season for him, and he's having a solid day so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't really talked about Abner in this race at all, but it's a very quiet top 5 for Abner Acosta. You know, he was in the PRL Cup Series race on Sunday. It came down to kind of a fuel mileage game for some at the end, and Abner was not going to make it. He tried to last until it was very obvious that he would have run out of fuel with a few laps remaining, and ended up way back. Actually, I lied. It was not that. It was that he made a mistake coming down the pit road and lost a ton of time, and he never kind of recovered from it. Finished outside the top 10, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But it wasn't the race that he needed as the championship leader. He comes here, he's put in a really solid performance, a top 5, provisionally 6 seconds ahead of the 55 machine. But hey, 5th place, top 5, not too bad at a difficult racetrack.
And I, for one, am very happy that Abner isn't racing in the PRL Grand National Series on Wednesday nights anymore in the NASCAR Xfinity cars.
Because now you've got a chance to finish in 13th.
Exactly. That's one more driver I don't have to beat. Arnaud Genet's in trouble, I think. He's fallen down to P12. There's a big old smoke cloud, and that tells us one thing, that Spoon Curve has taken yet another victim. Not even Arnaud could avoid it, and there he is. No emotions other than a little shake of the head. He's disappointed in himself.
Yeah, you can see there's a little bit of a frown right there from him. I don't think that's, he's a bit upset. And I think he'll drive, see that? A little bit of a sigh, a little bit of an eye roll there. Unfortunate moment for him. We appreciate him kind of providing a look into, what he sees. Again, he's looking into the corner. He leans into it. That's just natural, right? I think it's so cool. Look at that. He's talking. Yep. You heard. Oh, no. Is this a replay?
Yes, that is a replay.
Okay,
and that was Miguel Fonseca getting through there and avoiding that. That was an excellent save from him. Because there was a car in the middle of the road. Miguel got on the brakes in the middle of the corner, drifted that Audi through, and managed to keep it pointed in a straight line. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was quite incredible right there. But hey, no harm, no foul. It's your own mistake. You got to live with it and try and do the best you can to come back from an issue like that. But if it affects another driver's race, that's where it's like, dang it. That's where it really bites you in the S's, as you would say.
I'm gonna make a T-shirt out of that. I think
honestly,
we gotta save that for our ancestors.
Just and put a bunch of track maps, like specific sections, like Circuit of the Americas, Suzuka,
Maggots and Beckett's. That sounds fantastic.
That does sound.
Race spot merch opportunities right there. Before we were so rudely interrupted by Arnaud Genet, by the way, let's see it again. Miguel Fonseca.
What a move!
That was fantastic stuff from Miguel. That was almost a little bit of oval driving there, getting it turned sideways and trying to make it through the corner.
Hey, fantastic from Fonseca right there. That's all I gotta say. He did a great job of sliding it into the corner pretty hard. I'm concerned. We see Miguel Fonseca. His heart rate is back to normal levels. I can't imagine what it was when that incident was happening at Spoon. I'm concerned though, Joey, Mr. Tebben, because the battle up front has gone to a consistent 0.8, 7.5. It has not gotten closer. It's only gotten a tiny bit farther apart. And that concerns me because we're now down to 2 laps to go.
Jimmy has not been able to bring down this gap, but Vincent, he's a hardened veteran of this series. He takes pressure, and I think he condenses it into a diamond to victory. And he's not too worried about Jimmy behind him, but there's still going to be 2 laps to go at the line, most likely. I wonder if Jimmy can do anything different here. Can he look for an opportunity to scare Vincent offline? Can he get closer and take advantage in some way? What do you think he can do here as the gap is stagnating?
I mean, even if Jimmy gets a great run going on to, it's not really going to matter a run coming out of the final corner. You've got to make that move going in the 130R if you have a shot on the last lap. The finish line is right at the exit of the corner, so you got no slipstream. There's nothing you can do if you're not side by side going through Casio in that final curve. He's way too far back right here. He's going to have one more shot to get a slipstream down the front straight. He is farther back than he has been ever since the pit cycle. I don't know, Trepanier, I would have said he had to make his car as wide as a bus, but he's just doing great running on his own against the junior Porsche driver.
I got an easy way of winning here, Dylan. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
No brakes here, full throttle, cut the corner. That's how you do it.
Sometimes there's a wall that prevents that.
Only on Forza though. You've got good got grass and asphalt there. There's grass and asphalt on the outside of the Casio triangle. You can full throttle it if you really try.
I thought iRacing was it. But anyway.
Nah, no wall there. So if you ever want to cheat, if you're ever in the mood to cheat at Suzuka, as long as you serve the slowdown before the line, it doesn't actually help though. But I'm just trying to, I'm going off the wall here because everything that Jimmy Eber's tried to do, every piece of spaghetti he's thrown at this wall, none of it is stuck. So he's got to think of something more crazy.
Yeah, that is absolutely fair. By the way, white flag is in the air. This is the final lap of the race. And I've been pretty impressed with all the driving standards in this race so far. You kind of go into an open series expecting the drivers to be a little bit more experienced, especially with how their car in particular handles. They are completely able to tune the car to their liking, to their setup of choice. So you expect them to put it in a situation that's going to kind of conform to their driving style or kind of shape it around their driving style. And the standards in this race have been great. I feel like we still see Dalton Zavadil in 12th right now. He has had so many incidents in this race. I mean, easily he could have finished in, if not the top 5, at least in 6th.
And you want some big statistics here, Dylan. Last night in the LMP3 GT4 Challenge, Justin Ream won for the 20th time in the PRL. He tied a guy named Vincent Trepanier on 20 wins. But today, if Vincent Trepanier wins, he breaks that tie, gets to 21 wins, and moves from 9th all-time in the PRL to tied for 8th all-time with Greg Seitz on 21 wins. If he can navigate 2 more corners, he's going to inch himself even higher up in the PRL stat books, into the Casio triangle for the final time. Checkered flag awaits Vincent Trepanier. It's been an off-season so far from him. He's had SimCity Racing to defeat, and as always, Vincent Trepanier rises to the challenge, and for the 21st time in the PRL, Vincent Trepanier is a winner, ahead of Jimmy Eber. A fantastic race from him, but wasn't quite enough to take the bus driver off the top.
What a day for Trepanier, and he was so successful in his pursuit of being the first one to that finish line. We still have some battles going on, I think, throughout the field. A lot of close ones going on in the back, but I will say, what a fair and solid fight between Trepanier and Jimmy Ebre. It was fantastic. You appreciate when you've got good, hard racing between drivers that don't make contact with each other, that are pushing each other to the absolute limit. And they did just that to each other, just like in the fixed race. It was 2 great drives from the winners, but also some very respectable runs by second place.
And a lot of underdog stories. It's kind of crazy to call Abner Acosta an underdog, but that's his first top 5 of the season. Right behind him was David Mendonça, one of his best races he's ever had. When he started in this series all those seasons ago, he was in the AM class, and now he's legitimately racing with the pros, beating the likes of Martin Crisp. Fantastic race from him. Miguel Fonseca in the top 9 as well. A lot of big names, and a lot of names that really showed themselves today.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, when you have the skill, when you've got it, and you can race in most things, or at least pick it up pretty quickly to be competitive in.
Still waiting for a few stragglers to get across the line. Everybody wants to finish the race. Dimitri Sosno and Miguel Ruiz, they'll bring it around to the line one of these days. I think I'm ready to ride that Ferris wheel, Dylan. Every time we see it, I'm just... That place, Daytona as well, I want to get up there. I want to have some fun. But here we go. Vincent Trepanier, victorious for the 21st time in the PRL, ties him for 8th all-time with Greg Seitz. Jimmy Eber, though, fantastic day from him. P2, he'll be looking to win his first race later this season. And Chris Beets rounds out the podium. Anonymous day for him, but in a race like this, sometimes that's a good thing to get on the podium without having much trouble. Fernando Jaquez, good day for him and CRT. He's right ahead of Abner Acosta. Then Mendonça, Sammy Hendricks, a good day for him as well, down to the injured Martin Crisp, Miguel Fonseca, P9, and Dan Krasowski, after a penalty on lap 1 of the race, drove up all the way to the end of the top 10. Excellent recovery from him. It was a little bit of a recovery for P11 Thomas Dunn, even more of a recovery for Dalton Zavadil. Would have been a top 10 though without a little bit of an incident with Krasowski in turn 1. Then Desjardins, Genet, Brown, Simpson, Littleton, Allen, Nin, Ruiz, and last but not least Dimitri Sosno rounded out the lead lap finishers. The Bassmaster Ethan Bass had an excellent start, but it all went wrong in the S's on lap 1. He finishes 1 lap down. Alfonso only ended up 2 laps down after an incident. Simon Theriault ended up 12 laps down after the internet said, "You're not finishing this race, Simon." He would have been on the podium most likely, so spare thought for him, as a very solid day unfortunately ends in 24th place. But we do have his very happy teammate with us here, because for the first time this season, which is kind of shocking to say, we get to talk to Vincent Trepanier as a winner. It hasn't gone your way so far this season, Vincent, but we go to Suzuka, and suddenly you look like your old winning self again. What went right today?
It was a tough one because with the Libre just behind me, it was a very it was a very good pace tonight. And I'm sorry for my teammates, Simon Theriault. He's got lost connection. So I'm sorry for him.
Unfortunate stuff. Would have been on the podium, but now with this win, that's your 21st win in the PRL. That ties you for 8th all time. You're still moving on up in the world. Next one is Sean Campbell on 24 wins. Is that a name you want to chase?
Yeah. Because I know he's a very high rating, the iRacing. So yeah. I hope I will be I will be able to join him.
Well, Vincent, congrats on yet another win, back on top, and we'll see you at Mugello next week.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the broadcast. Thanks to Advanced Motorsport and Advanced Racing for the season.
I'm being told to say something in French before you leave. I have to say bonsoir, mon ami.
Oh, bonsoir. Thank you, guys. Good job.
I don't know how to speak French. I can only say petit pois, so that's all Dylan there.
Je peux un peu français.
Oh, nice. Good job.
We'll let Dylan do we're going to let Dylan do the interviews in French next week if he's back. But Vincent Trepanier coming home with the win. We do have second place waiting for us, though, and we'll see if he knows any French. It's actually Chris Beats from third. He gets to talk to Dylan.
Hey, Chris, great run there. It felt like, at the end, we were very focused on the lead battle, but you were doing a really solid job of holding your own. And I know it might have been a little bit boring at the end, a few seconds off, but also 7 seconds up on P4. Did you just feel, running your race, had to be successful, didn't want to put a foot wrong, and just maybe be in the catbird seat if the top two maybe made a mistake?
For sure. I've had kind of a roller coaster couple weeks with 2 big accidents before the start finish line for the last 2 races. So obviously my mindset is just finish the race. I didn't expect to be this high up in the field, and big shout out to Dalton. He really put together a good setup. The car was consistent and it was fast. I'm just not. I just couldn't push any faster to catch up to those 2. So I just had to kind of sit there, do the fuel saving game, see if they got into any trouble, and then be there to pounce if the opportunity came around.
Of course, this is your third top 5 in 5 races. Obviously, you've had a little bit of bad luck in the last 2 weekends that may have taken you out of potential contention for the championship, but it was not a great race for the championship leader. Might tighten the point standings just a little bit. Do you think in the last 4 rounds there's anything you can do to kind of get yourself back into this fight for number 1 instead of having Dalton and Vincent just start to sort of walk away a little bit?
If there's anything to learn, like the starts of these races, there's teams and there's team communication, and then also you kind of have that kind of bubble that you give a teammate. Like, you don't want to get anywhere near a teammate because you don't want to touch them. And it seems like, like today, the advanced guys, Simon and Vincent, absolutely nailed the start. They caught us off guard so good. I got to give them props. But one thing they did do is they took Daniel out of contention, because Daniel went flying past me and I lifted. If he's past me because he's in my column, he's going to get a drive-through penalty. So it's kind of like, yeah, they nailed the start, but they also kind of hurt one of their own, associated drivers. So it doesn't take much to completely ruin a race. So we're going to go into it just like we've done every race this season. Show up, make sure we have a good setup,
make sure we are consistent, and kind of see what happens. And we'll let the driving do the talking. But with the team thing, it really changes your strategy and your mindset going into a race versus just an open sprint where it's all you. Now you got to consider, like, for instance, Dalton. He got held up, and I had to kind of sit behind him and wait. And I had to watch the entire train of cars go by me. But in the end, like, patience paid back, and I made quite a few spots. Unfortunate for Simon with his internet. It seems to be kind of like this in the hosted sessions. So it gives and it takes. It could happen to anyone.
Well, Chris, hey, congratulations on the podium finish. It is interesting what you say about, the teammates and then team communication. So appreciate your insight on that from the start. Hey, hopefully your luck is starting to change just a little bit as we head to the final 4 races. Chris, thanks as always. Best of luck going forward.
Appreciate it. Quick shout out to Brandon. He's feeling a little ill today. He should have been here racing, and hope he gets better soon. I just got over it too, so I know what he's going through.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, appreciate it. And congrats again on 3rd place.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, Joey, it was a really, really great set of 2 races here at Suzuka. And I think maybe a little bit of a palate cleanser from the calamity that was Roval, basically pre-race every time.
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy last week, and 2 solid races this week with some good old-fashioned chases with Campbell and a race winner in race 1 is Raya Osborne, and with Trepanier and Yibra here in the sprint series. It has been a lot of fun tonight, but we're going to have even more fun next week as Mugello finally makes its PRL debut. It's going to be the big question mark. I assume some drivers have driven some test laps since it was released at the start of the season, but none of them have ever raced there, and we hope you'll join us then. Same time, same place here on RaceSpotTV for the great unknown of the season. I'll be studying up on my Italian as well, and we'll see what happens there. This is not the end of the PRL week, by the way. Tomorrow night, the PRL Wednesday Night Oval Series will be back. The Truck Series and the Grand National Series will take on a pair of tracks that I don't actually know, and I should probably figure out that because I'm racing in the second one. But until then, we'll worry about that later. I've been Joey Tebben. Dylan Coyle's been Dylan Coyle. Our producer has been Dane Baird. And until we see you next time, so long.